Part 75. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Rusiahua. Chapter 765. The time away from Juncha was relatively long this time. Lu Yuang was careful about his budget and found that the parking fee at the airport was relatively expensive, so he chose a private parking lot near the airport which was much cheaper. When young people born in the 1980s and 1990s began to take up more activities in the market economy, the overall services of merchants seem to have been greatly improved. Even a private parking lot also provides car butler services in the WeChat group. Lu Yuang sent her flight information to the butler in the private parking lot before boarding the plane. Now when she walked to the designated handover location in the private parking lot, the car has been delivered. She didn't need to go to pick up the car by herself, and the car was cleaned once, which made people feel comfortable. Life is about planning carefully so that you can live comfortably and long-term. Lu Yuang took the opportunity to educate En Nuan. After all, En Nuan had just called Lu Chang'an husband, which gave Lu Yuang a sense of urgency. He must put himself after settling down. The shrewd life experience of a mature woman was imparted to her. Then you find that the vacuum cleaner at home is very easy to use and has never been broken. This gives you no reason to buy new smart vacuum cleaners and sweeping robots. What do you think when you deliberately break the old vacuum cleaner? Where is his abacus? En Nuan felt that Professor Liu had no self-awareness at all. En Nuan has always believed that Professor Liu's connections are her greatest advantage in all aspects of life. As for other life experiences and insights, Professor Liu does not have any more advantages than En Nuan. For example, Professor Liu still believes that KFC has secretly cultivated a kind of chicken called seraph. As a science student, I naturally have to battle with this ancient rumor. Even using the Gao Duai family's chicken farm as proof, I still can't convince Professor Liu that this kind of chicken does not exist, and the economics of cultivating it are very lacking. The survival rate of individuals with this kind of deformity is too low. Did I do that on purpose? What evidence do you have? Lu Yuang refused to admit it and quickly changed the subject. By the way, why don't you show Lu Chang'an your ginseng to see if it's genuine? En Nuan was too lazy to argue with Lu Yuang. She reached out to open the suitcase next to her and took out a box of ginseng. The trunk was full, there was a small suitcase on the passenger seat, and there were even two suitcases squeezed into the back seat. In fact, they were mainly Lu Yuang's luggage, and En Nuan's own 33-inch oversized luggage. The box was requisitioned by Lu Yuang, and the one she is using now is smaller and easier to open. In fact, ginseng farming is now large-scale and the cost is very low. Farming radish to make fake ginseng is as stupid as if there was a news that someone spent 200,000 yuan to make 200,000 fake coins. Lu Chang'an took a casual look and knew this is not fake dried radish. Most incidents of dried radish pretending to be ginseng occurred more than 10 or 20 years ago. At that time, the entire Northeast was relatively chaotic. What impressed Lu Chang'an deeply was that Chuncheng even had the nickname of the world's terror city. A popular local criminal activity was called scraping and ads. Planning ads is a dialect of Northeast China. It itself is a mason's tool, which is similar to a hammer in the south. Planning an ads is just like hitting a sap, just because the choice of this tool can cause more harm than hitting the back of the head with an ordinary wooden stick. Being hit hard on the back of the head can easily cause intracranial hemorrhage, resulting in death or disability, which is often more terrifying than being stabbed twice in an ordinary robbery. This kind of criminal activity has been rampant for a long time. Because of the sudden nature of the crime and the short duration of the crime, and because there were no cameras all over the streets at that time, it was difficult to solve the crime. For a time, everyone was in danger. People walking on the road at that time would feel frightened and terrified whenever they heard the slightest movement behind them. The Northeast has been a prosperous place, but for a long time it has been difficult for the people to live their lives. Now it is much better. Those who miss the domestic environment in the 1980s and 1990s are all bad, and there is no need to use stupid to explain this nostalgia. It is not that they are both stupid and bad, but simply bad. This is wild. Anyway, you will eat it after I bought it, and Nuan pointed at his ginseng and said. As a girl in the new era, and Nuan will shyly face her heart and consider her future happy life. She looked up information and found that after a man starts doing shameful things with a woman, his body is losing nutrients and needs to be continuously replenished with nutrients to ensure that the two people's lives together until old age are always filled with passion. Men are like tools, they must be well maintained and oiled to last a long time. Professor Lu obviously doesn't understand this truth. She can deliberately break even a good vacuum cleaner, preferring the new to the old. I wonder if Lu Chang'an understands this principle? I hope he can detect Professor Liu's shortcomings from such details, and at the same time understand the advantages of a Nuan. Okay, Lu Chang'an opened the box, took one and stuffed it into his mouth to eat. Lu Yuwang saw it in the rear-view mirror, and was so surprised that he felt a twitching spasm in his lower abdomen. He quickly pulled over and leaned on the steering wheel with a smile. In order to cater to his little girlfriend, Lu Chang'an went to the point of being inappropriate as a human being. Lu Yuwang was amazed by this. I didn't let you eat like this, and Nuan quickly snatched the remaining piece from Lu Chang'an's mouth. She was funny and distressed at the same time. She took a bottle of water and opened the cap. Rinse your mouth quickly. And Nuan is usually a girl who can't open the bottle after falling in love, but when it's not suitable to be pretentious, she is a gentle and considerate girlfriend who can comfort stupid boyfriends in time. Betel nut in the south, ginseng in the north. Lu Chang'an took a sip of water and explained, people in the north chew ginseng, just like people in the south chew betel nut. You can pull it off. People usually just hold ginseng slices in their mouths and chew some ginseng roots. How can you chew them like a carrot? Lu Yuwang smiled with squinting eyes. Although he often acts distant and indifferent towards Lu Chang'an, he has to admit that he is actually a very interesting person. He usually has a mature and steady image that is almost omnipotent, but occasionally acts stupidly, creating a contrast. Cute. Stop at the vegetable market later and have ginseng stew for lunch, Lu Chang'an suggested, and at the same time praised An Nuan. It doesn't matter if it's wild or not. This ginseng you can buy is okay, and it has a good taste. And Nuan suddenly shook her head with pride, because ever since she spent all her New Year's money to buy this box of ginseng, her mother had been beeping that she had traveled thousands of miles to buy radishes for Lu Chang'an to dry. Isn't it really done by carrots? Lu Yuwang restarted the car. No. Stop eating, and Nuan was so angry. Lu Yuwang snorted lightly. She didn't really believe that this kind of nutritional and health products could be bought casually. There were too many fakes in the world. Lu Yuwang usually buys these nutritional supplements from his friends. If he wants to buy things like ginseng wings and belly, he always goes to familiar friends to introduce channels or stores. He has never failed. Generally, people who rely on friends to sell goods will not deceive Lu Yuwang, because Professor Lu has a wide network of contacts. Once she is deceived, the spread will have a great impact on their business. Some high-end goods relying on online store promotion is difficult to sell. Chang'an, can you cook for lunch? Lu Yuwang asked. No problem, Lu Chang'an nodded. Mom, you should say, Chang'an, you cook at noon. And Nuan was a little dissatisfied with the tone of Professor Liu's conversation with her boyfriend. Okay, it sounded like coquettishness. What I say is none of your business. Lu Yuwang naturally had a different tone when talking to An Nuan. Why did he bring this thing back? When he was in Chenbai Mountain, he obviously thought about leaving An Nuan in Tianqi and letting her live with the dinosaurs in Tianqi. Unfortunately, no dinosaurs were seen. The tour guide said that if you are lucky, you can see the Tianqi water monster. Lu Yuwang scientifically analyzed that the water monster is a dinosaur. My mother is so fierce. And Nuan turned around and started acting coquettishly with Lu Chang'an. It's so crowded in the back and there's no place for my legs to rest. Please hold me. Lu Chang'an hugged her into his arms. And Nuan gave him a sweet look and closed his eyes with satisfaction. Since last night, thinking about being able to see him today, he has not slept well. Now he finally feels at ease. Come down and take a nap. Lu Chang'an looked at Nuan's face. The delicate skin was flawless. The white neck under the soft earlobes was like the pride of a swan. The delicate collarbones and soft shoulders were completely without the strong feeling of most female athletes. Thanks to him, with the help of him, he can maintain a masculine aesthetic figure while also being able to impress people on the volleyball team because of his strength. When she first joined the volleyball team, the team members basically didn't think much of her. Later, the relationship gradually improved, and it was only because of her personality charm rather than her athletic level, until she showed high performance during training. The level of competition makes people re-examine it. This was also a girl he had raised with his own hands. Lu Chang'an put his hand on her slender legs and patted her. He was very satisfied with this girl. The car suddenly stopped. Lu Chang'an looked up and saw Lu Yuwang looking down. She looked for a while and seemed to find nothing unusual, so she continued driving. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 766. The stockings Lu Yuwang wore today were only 25D, but because the material was very good and had a certain degree of warmth, they were no better than ordinary winter stockings of 60D. D is the unit of measurement for stockings per unit length including front fiber. It is called denier, or D for short. Generally speaking, the D value of summer stockings is around 20, and 30-60 for spring and autumn. Winter stockings that exceed 60D are used in most winters. For beautiful girls wearing short skirts, their winter socks are above 60D. There are also those with a weight of more than 1000D, which are called long johns. Times are progressing, technology is developing, and girls' skirts are getting shorter and shorter, just like the D value of their socks is getting smaller and smaller, but they have the effect of keeping warm and shaping the legs comparable to higher D values. The body shaping effect Lu Yuwang is wearing now is very good, because sometimes she is slightly envious of beautiful girls whose thighs and calves are about the same thickness. Suitable stockings can create a similar effect. Therefore, the stockings above the knees will be tight and close to the skin. Lu Yuwang just felt some numbness and itchiness in the thigh area. Just wearing such stockings, scratching did not relieve it. Itchy feeling. There were adult men in the car, and Lu Yuwang was too embarrassed to lift up her skirt and scratch it hard, so she had to endure it. Fortunately, this feeling was fleeting and did not continue to affect Lu Yuwang's driving. Lu Yuwang turned on the music and asked Lu Chang'an behind him, Chang'an. SHH. Lu Yuwang lowered his voice and continued, I want to change my car. What's the budget? My dad gave me 300,000. Sure enough, she is a little princess. She has been working for more than 10 years, and she can still get hundreds of thousands from her old father to buy a car. Lu Chang'an thought for a while, bids new electric car, hired a former Mercedes-Benz designer, very good looking, and the appearance and temperament are also very suitable for a professional woman like you who lives a refined life. Many people don't have a car but know a lot about cars. Lu Chang'an doesn't have a car either, but he's not good at talking with others when they inquire about buying a car. But now that the internet is exploding with information, he's more or less exposed to some relevant information. Young people in their 20s drive domestic cars, and they seem to have quite a personality, live a positive life, and are calm and not exaggerated. But I am already over 30, and few of my colleagues at school drive. Lu Yuwang politely rejected Lu Chang'an's suggestion to buy a domestic car. But who can tell that you are over 30? You and Nuan are like sisters. Lu Chang'an told the truth, not to flatter his mother-in-law. Professor Lu is a model for mature women to take care of themselves. What's more, after experiencing the facial cream incident, Her skin has been extraordinarily moisturized, and her body functions have improved, making her look more youthful. Lu Yuwang couldn't help but feel proud. Others said that she was like An Nuan's sisters. It was too much of a compliment, but Lu Chang'an was An Nuan's boyfriend. What he said should be considered more truthful, because he knew An Nuan's skin better. How great, if there was really a big gap between her and An Nuan, he would not open his eyes and tell lies. Actually, when you change the car, you will definitely get a better one. The positioning of this car now overlaps with the car you mentioned. I plan to spend a little more on my own. The budget is probably between 500,000 and 700,000, Lu Yuwang said happily. He said that he was in a good mood after being praised and decided to reward himself. He originally saved some money and planned to use it as a dowry for An Nuan, but An Nuan would not get married for a while, so he spent it to buy a car first. Then you can go to some car-related posts or forums and ask. The netizens there are all like car experts. They know everything from supercars worth tens of millions to old guys worth several thousand, Lu Chang'an suggested. Road. Okay, let me first ask my friend who is engaged in internet cars. Lu Yuwang remembered such a person. Lu Chang'an nodded and didn't say anything else. Women are like this. Many times they already know something, but they still like to ask questions everywhere. When Lu Yuwang buys a car, she will definitely consult a lot of people, but Lu Chang'an believes that in the end she only has one selection criterion: good looks. Cheap and good looking, these are the reasons why many women shop. As for finding out that they are of no use at all after buying them, that is a story for another day. This is actually a very correct shopping psychology. Does shopping necessarily need to consider practicality? After all, if you see a beautiful thing, even though it is of no use, if you don't buy it, you will always think about it and think that it is what you need. If it is very cheap but you don't buy it, you will always feel that if you need it in the future, you will buy it. If you can't find such a price, wouldn't you be at a disadvantage? When the car drove to the vegetable market, An Nuan, who had taken a nap with squinted eyes, woke up and found that she was still lying in Lu Chang'an's arms. She felt extremely satisfied, stretched out, tilted her neck back and kissed him. You guys go buy groceries, I'm afraid of the cold. Lu Yuwang was about to take the opportunity to straighten his stockings. Originally An Nuan was sleeping, and Lu Chang'an was afraid that he would wake up An Nuan when he got out of the car, so he agreed that Lu Yuwang would go buy groceries. Now that An Nuan woke up, of course it was An Nuan and Lu Chang'an who went there. I'm going to buy vegetables, I'm going to buy vegetables, I'm going to buy vegetables, An Nuan muttered and took out her mobile phone. She bought ginseng to replenish Lu Chang'an's health. Of course, she also studied the menu suitable for men. This is also the growth of a girl. The two of them got out of the car. An Nuan leaned against Lu Chang'an, and Lu Chang'an put his arm around her shoulders. After all, it was still a bit cold outside in her outfit. Even if she feels cold, it won't hurt her. She doesn't catch colds so easily now. If she really wants to catch a cold, it must be a very serious physical condition. I have already thought about the menu. In addition to stewed ginseng, I also want to eat dishes made from okra and leeks. It is good for your health. An Nuan showed a hee-hee smile and patted Lu Chang'an's chest gently as a hint. These foods are related to male performance. Lu Chang'an didn't need these foods at all, and he could also have the title of the boss of the Autobots on the planet Cybertron, but this was An Nuan's wish after all, so he nodded. Going to buy chickens first, Lu Chang'an pointed to a little hen and told An Nuan how to buy a chicken. This chicken should have bright eyes, bright red combs, shiny hair, clean chicken pieces without redness and swelling, and plump and elastic breasts. Like this the chicken is healthy and delicious. As he spoke, Lu Chang'an grabbed a little hen that was motionless and stared at him, turned his head and glanced at its cloaca. Look, that's the kind of chicken it is. Little brother will buy it, the stall owner casually complimented him. Although this is common sense, young people nowadays will understand this and not pay attention to these details. When young people come to buy chickens, they often just let the stall owner catch one casually. Just weigh him and kill him and that's it. Lu Chang'an put down the chicken and signaled to the stall owner that this was the only one. The little hen turned around as soon as it landed and rubbed Lu Chang'an's finger with its cloaca. Lu Chang'an had no choice but to wash his hands. The female animals in this world, whether they were birds, beasts, or beautiful girls, were all full of desire for him. There was nothing he could do about it. Only perverts in ancient times, or scholars who couldn't afford a boy, were interested in the little hen. Lu Chang'an had always been a normal person, and of course he would silently reject the little hen's suggestion. He's going to eat it too. And Nuan was limited by her limited knowledge and did not know that a little hen had just tried to seduce her boyfriend. Ordinary people still need to pay attention to the situation to prevent their spouses from being accidentally seduced. This is also common. After buying chicken, I went to pick okra. Okra is rich in nutrients, tender, and refreshing. It is a fresh vegetable suitable for the table all year round. Lu Chang'an bought a little more and decided to make steamed okra with eggs and roasted okra with salt and pepper. Stir-fried pork belly with aoi lily and chives. And Nuan bought a large handful of leeks, so much that they could be braided into a thick cuckold. Except for a part of it that Lu Chang'an would fry and eat, she planned to cook the rest with sizzling leeks. 5 dishes for lunch today, is that enough? After buying the dishes, and Nuan calculated for a while and said to Lu Chang'an. Speaking of 5, do you know why many girls nowadays are not good at math, which affects their daily life? For example, they cannot judge the distance when driving in reverse and Nuan's cheeks puffed up a little, and she suppressed her smile. Trying to keep a serious expression so as not to make Lu Chang'an think in strange places. This is a natural phenomenon, Lu Chang'an said. But, not at all. It's because you men always tell women that 5 centimeters is 20 centimeters. After saying this, and Nuan threw herself into Lu Chang'an's arms and laughed shyly. In fact, girls like to pretend to be pure little white flowers, but the feeling of telling dirty jokes with their boyfriends is something they can't resist. Lu Chang'an lowered his head expressionlessly. And Nuan raised her head and took a peek at his expression. She suddenly became even more proud. She bit the button on his chest and twitched her shoulders slightly while laughing. I will teach you correct mathematics from now on. Lu Chang'an hugged her and walked to the car. And Nuan didn't understand what correct mathematics meant at all, but she was even more shy, her cheeks were red, and she was shaking a bag of leeks with her fingers. Back in the car, Lu Yuwang had just made a phone call and consulted a few friends about buying a car. Hundreds of thousands was not a small amount for Lu Yuwang, so he had to be cautious. There was a car show recently, and Lu Yuwang planned to ask Lu Chang'an to help and go take a look together. If you want to buy a tractor, I know a lot about it. If you want to buy a big truck, I'm also very interested. I'm just a layman on small cars. Lu Chang'an declined politely. He was not a netizen on the car forum, and he didn't have a car yet he knew a lot about cars. Yes, yes, and Nuan nodded repeatedly. Although in Nuan's eyes, her boyfriend must be omnipotent, and it is certainly not a problem to provide some consultation on such trivial matters as buying a car, but forget about the car show date mentioned by Professor Lu. Isn't that the beginning of school? School has started and Nuan doesn't have time to go with her. What should I do? No, you have to come with me. I will call Lao Ling when the time comes, but there needs to be a man beside me to help make decisions in some respects. Lu Yuwang still has a more traditional mentality. He always feels that important matters at home are important. It feels more secure to have a man finalize the opinion. Hearing that Professor Ling was accompanying him, and Nuan nodded, that's okay. Okay, Lu Chang'an will teach Nuan mathematics today. It is not appropriate to offend Professor Lu. Professor Lu is the kind of woman who is not big-minded. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Julian Kuiken Rusiahua. Chapter 767. Except for nearly colliding with a female driver driving an Audi A5 on the road, Lu Yuang drove the car safely to his home. Driving from Hexi to Dongbian Airport in Hedong, such a long drive is nothing to Lu Yuang, and she has no pride. What was a little annoying was that the female driver driving the Audi A5 seemed to look at Lu Yuang's car with disdain. Lu Yuang was a little dissatisfied. Imported cars are great, right? Her Volvo is actually not bad, but she has made up her mind to switch to an imported model. Back home, Lu Yuang and An Nuan packed their luggage. Lu Chang'an put the vegetables into the kitchen, took out the ginseng separately and washed it, put it in a cup, covered it and steamed it under water, and set the fire for half an hour. Several suitcases were opened in the living room, and An Nuan and Lu Yuang were picking out their trophies. In addition to ginseng, An Nuan brought Lu Chang'an 2 other items from the 3 treasures of northeast China, mink skin and deer antlers. There are 2 types of northeastern 3 treasures, the old and the new. In the past, the poor people in the northeast could not afford to wear mink in this cold weather, so they could only use urad grass to pad their shoes to keep warm. At that time, the northeastern 3 treasures were ginseng, mink fur, and urad grass. Nowadays, of course, not many people use urad grass to pad their shoes, so the status of urad grass has been replaced by deer antlers. The mink product An Nuan brought to Lu Chang'an was a pair of mink underwear. Although Lu Chang'an liked his little girlfriend who doted on him very much, when she took this thing out to give to Lu Chang'an ruthlessly refused. "I'll accept the deer antler. You can wear this for fun, thank you." Lu Chang'an waved his hand. Although he once said that he was willing to be An Nuan's licking dog, there is a bottom line for licking dogs. You can let him run naked, or let him wear mink fur. Underwear is a no-go. Haha. Lu Yuang has been looking forward to this moment for a long time. An Nuan will always show strange tastes at certain times, such as the black and white stripes she bought before, which look like the pajamas of foreign prisoners' prison clothes. Even her grandparents found it disgusting. Ugly, I don't want to wear the same thing as her. Isn't this cute? It feels plush. An Nuan felt aggrieved. When she bought these mink underwear, she had thought about what if he would sneak up the window and run into her room occasionally. Nuan was forced to let him stay overnight, in exchange for letting him wear these mink underwear, which was plush and felt like a small animal. She traveled thousands of miles to bring him a gift. It was fine if he didn't like it, but he was not even willing to accept it. "Did you buy this for me too? I like this." Lu Chang'an quickly picked up a set of cups to distract An Nuan. An Nuan hummed and said, "This is called Haihejiang River." "Wait a minute," Lu Yuang interrupted An Nuan. "Chang'an, let me test you. Look at this set of cups. Did you order anything?" An Nuan glared at Lu Yuang with dissatisfaction. She must know that Lu Chang'an could tell it, but she had to test Lu Chang'an again. Does she like this feeling of talking about the present and the past with him so much? Lu Chang'an looked at the packaging of the cup. It was a white rectangular carton with a vent with a pattern of the Forbidden City treasures on the top. There was no doubt that this was a peripheral product of the Palace Museum. Lu Chang'an smiled and said, "It is a modern handicraft inspired by the collection of the Forbidden City. There is not much to say about it, the overall shape is good. The highlight is the sea water and river cliff pattern. The hem of the Qing dynasty emperor's dragon robe has sea water. The 8 treasures pattern on the banks of the river means blessings, mountains, longevity, and sea, and the eternal stability of the rivers and mountains. Fortunately, the rivers and mountains are not eternal, so we ordinary people can also use the golden dragon pattern, and the 8 treasures pattern of the sea water, rivers, and cliffs. Yes, the sea water river cliff pattern is the highlight. When An Nuan saw the set of quick cups, she felt that it was particularly suitable for your temperament. Lu Yuwang handed the box to Lu Chang'an. Do you like it? I like it. These are better than mink underwear. Lu Chang'an took it and hugged An Nuan for a kiss. An Nuan was kissed, and secretly glanced at Professor Lu with some pride, so she didn't care about her taking the exam to Lu Chang'an, creating an ambiguous atmosphere. At this time, the doorbell rang, and An Nuan went to open the door, but Hans Hizi came over to play. Aunt Lu. Did you bring me a gift? Hans Hizi spoke to Lu Yuwang first. Bring it, the same silk scarf as your mother's. It's so perfunctory, it's a silk scarf again. Stinky girl, you're looking for a beating. Do you want some love? I have the same thing. Hee, of course I want it, the color is really pretty. Hans Hizi took the gift, then took An Nuan's hand, walked to Lu Chang'an and said hello, hi, macho man. Weak chicken. Lu Chang'an echoed her. An Nuan burst out laughing. I called you a tough guy to compliment you. Why did you call me a weakling? Hans Hizi raised her arms and tried to bulge her biceps. That time you brought Zonghai's son-in-law over to play, and I called you a fierce girl. An Nuan was not happy. She felt that strong men and strong women were like a couple, so I had to call you weak chicken and draw a clear line with you. Lu Chang'an expressed candidly. The reason why he called her a weakling is, what's more, compared to me, you are indeed no better than a weakling in every aspect. Lu Chang'an wasn't making fun of her, he was just discussing it objectively. When I master Taekwondo, I will knock you down sooner or later. Hans Hizi knew that she was no longer Lu Chang'an's opponent, so she had to endure the humiliation. She could only recall the handsomeness of girls who had practiced Taekwondo and karate in many movies when they knocked down men. The picture encourages yourself. Sooner or later. If humans can achieve immortality in your lifetime, you can practice for 5 billion years and come to me again. Lu Chang'an cupped his hand. We will see you again in 5 billion years. Arrogant, I'll come find you in 5 months. Hans Hizi geared up. Lu Chang'an glanced at An Nuan, and An Nuan tacitly found a broken bowl and gave it to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an patted the broken bowl, rubbed it vigorously, and then showed Hans Hizi the pieces. He didn't rub it to pieces, that would be too showy. He was a humble and down-to-earth person, so enough was enough. Hans Hizi stared in shock. I was just joking. Saying that, Hans Hizi pulled An Nuan back into the room and closed the door. What are you doing? An Nuan looked strange when she saw Hans Hizi's eyes. As a sister, she knew that Hans Hizi must say something stupid. He's so strong. Why didn't he rub your penis off when you were doing that? Hans Hizi stretched out her hand to check worriedly. She was worried that An Nuan was gone. You're going to die? You're crazy. An Nuan opened Hans Hizi's hand, feeling funny and angry. Hans Hizi's worry was actually a bit serious, not just a joke. It was really mind-boggling. Hey, you seem to have developed a second time, and you can rival me in the barrier. Hans Hizi shifted her attention and sighed, so it's true that you will develop a second time if you have a boyfriend. Find a boyfriend as soon as possible. An Nuan was a little proud and shy. There was no need to be pretentious in front of Hans Hizi. I have a perfect figure now, and I will be worthy of meeting Bai Fen. Pull it down, you can't tell reality when you swell up. No matter how you develop, can a pig turn into a bear? You are a pig, and he was born a bear. No matter how you develop, he will become a pig, and he will grow up naturally. It's a black bear spirit, and one slap made you lose your 9-toothed rake. Hans Hizi said disapprovingly. Bai Hui was still very well known in Juncha High School, not to mention that Hans Hizi was Bai Hui's mortal enemy's best friend, and she had some feelings for Bai Hui. Learn. If I were Zhu Beiji, you would be Monk Shat. Look at you with your bangs combed up, and your forehead will be as bare as junior brother Shat. You're going to die? I'm worried that I've been losing my hair recently. Monk Shat is bald, right? It seems to be the Mediterranean Sea. Bah, you have such a bad mouth. If I lose more than 10 hairs after washing my hair today, you will curse me. The two chatted for a while and then came out again. Lu Chang'an had already gone to the kitchen to work, and An Nuan left Hans Hizi to have lunch with her. There were several people eating, so Lu Yuwang took out a box of red sausages. She bought 4 types of red sausages: Harbin Meat Factory red sausage, Shangui red sausage, Kaiulan Li Dao's red sausage and Nongda red sausage. Lu Chang'an looked at those red sausages and felt that this was probably a woman's sense of ritual. Even the less famous commercial committee red sausages and agricultural university red sausages in the south could be bought online, but she wanted to buy them herself. Carrying it back from thousands of miles away. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 768. After eating a nutritious lunch at noon, Lu Chang'an felt energetic, just like a steam locomotive in the past. It was filled with coal and could travel through the mountains and tunnels with smoke. This kind of scene was common on the routes in the mountainous areas of the south. Lu Chang'an remembered that the area from Junxia to Yunnan and Guizhou used to be mountainous and multi-tunnel. The short route on the map often took several days and nights, but now the fastest high-speed emus only take a few hours. The developed transportation network makes people feel that the country seems to have shrunk a lot. Lu Chang'an left An Nuan's house thinking about these things. Because Hans Hizi decided to sleep with An Nuan in the afternoon, Lu Chang'an originally wanted to discuss mathematical problems with An Nuan, such as the Riemann hypothesis being solved by someone who had obtained the academic master system. Now he had to put his hands in his pockets and think about why 5 centimeters equals 20 centimeters, and why the number 8 equals the letter D. Young people at this time are often depressed and bored. Lu Chang'an is such a young man. After walking out of the Orange Garden, he walked around the Xiongnan University campus and watched the branches and leaves of many sycamore trees trembling in the wind. Accompanied by the murmur of the branches and leaves shaking, he couldn't help but frown. He was not dissatisfied with his desires, but he could not help feeling that he was being ridiculed. It's like a single person with good looks sees an ugly couple showing affection. So Lu Chang'an took a deep breath and let out a roar like a strange beast. The powerful air waves vibrated and dispersed in circles, covering the entire Xiongda campus, shattering the playful cold wind roar and making it invisible. The branches and leaves trembled and fell a lot. Autumn has not yet arrived, but sycamore leaves have fallen all over the campus again. Lu Chang'an felt refreshed again. He was just an ordinary person, so he could adjust his emotions through breathing like ordinary people. He didn't roar wildly, but controlled the sound a little, so that it wouldn't be too alarming. In fact, there was no problem. From time to time, there would be news on the internet about a loud noise erupting in the sky above a certain place. Walking from Hexi to Hedong, Lu Chang'an could always see Building 1 of Bailong Center surrounded by clouds and mist. Many snow mountain photographers often cheered when they encountered the rare snow mountain hat clouds. In fact, skyscrapers also have the chance to form such rare formations. Cloud phenomenon. A cloud like a hat shrouded the roof of Building 1 of Bailong Center. Lu Chang'an asked Zhongqing and learned that Yan Qingcheng had just finished teaching Zhu Huntang in the morning, and now Zhu Huntang was playing happily. Lu Chang'an decided to teach her Zhu Huntang. He couldn't just teach her Guanju and be done with it, right? Today, I asked her to learn the second chapter of GE10. It just so happened that this chapter had the meaning of asking parents for gains from learning. Slowly walking to Bailong Center, Lu Chang'an was greeted by Zhu Huntang's other full-time secretary, Jin Xiaomei, who had just been transferred from Taiwan and was starting to take over some daily affairs under the guidance of Zhongqing. Now that Zhongqing has been promoted and has real power, he has many things to deal with in the company, and he cannot continue to take over Zhu Huntang's trivial matters. He needs someone to assist him. Jin Xiaomei is from Taiwan. Her face shape is a little too perfect and delicate, and it feels like she has gone under the knife. But overall she is still very good looking, and she is a very successful type. Her facial expressions are also very natural, without any stiffness or weirdness. Mr. Lu, Miss is playing in the fairy lake now. It's not that Jin Xiaomei has never met Lu Chang'an, she is just responsible for receiving him today. She also knows Lu Chang'an's identity, an ordinary college student at Xiongnan University. What kind of identity is this? Jin Xiaomei is not stupid, and the other party is definitely not simple. If you don't know, you shouldn't ask more, just do your job well. Zhongqing investigated Lu Chang'an many times, but Jin Xiaomei would not have done so, because Zhongqing was the third wife's person at the time, and Zhongqing was more responsible for the third wife. Jin Xiaomei did not have Zhongqing's status and position to do unnecessary things. What is Fairy Lake? Lu Chang'an didn't know Zhu Huntang's residence very well. She was the only one who disliked the small size of the place. For Lu Chang'an, who lived in utility rooms, tube buildings, and other places most of the time, it was quite big. Of course, for a monarch who once owned a palace, it was indeed not a big deal. The fairy lake is the indoor swimming pool next to the aquarium. The third lady named it Fairy Lake because she felt that fairies would often appear in the forest, but there is no forest here, so she had to maintain her fairy spirit in the fairy lake, Jin Xiaomei explained. Lu Chang'an nodded and said nothing. After declining Jin Xiaomei's lead, Lu Chang'an touched the screen on the wall and called up the floor plan. After taking a look, he clicked on the guidance sign on the screen. A smart electric car embedded in the wall drove out. Lu Chang'an touched it and sat on it with some novelty. It seems that home products are highly intelligent and systematization is the future trend. Many things are first used in wealthy families, and then slowly spread to the homes of ordinary people. For example, refrigerators, color TVs, air conditioners, etc. This kind of smart electric vehicles used at home may not be popular. After all, ordinary people's homes are unlikely to be big enough to need electric vehicles for transportation. Lu Chang'an has never seen Zhu Huntang use such a smart electric car. He has only seen her running around on a balance car. After walking through the swimming pool changing area and the aquarium viewing area with lounge chairs, Lu Chang'an came to the swimming pool and discovered that it was not just the bamboo fairy that haunted the fairy lake, but the white fairy as well. When the two fairies were playing together, Lu Chang'an always felt that the fairy energy they exuded was particularly strong. Just like when Zhou Dongdong and Zhou Shuling were together, well, maybe it's not very accurate, because Zhou Shuling can still suppress Zhou Dongdong, then it will look more normal. Let's use the analogy between Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan when they were together. Shang Guandandan always tried to make Zhou Dongdong do stupid things, and even cooperated with Zhou Dongdong. In fact, Shang Guandandan himself is not very smart and is equally stupid. Zhu Huntang is still wearing the sheepdoll suit with the electric shock horn hood. This is the most worn outfit by Zhu Huntang that Lu Chang'an has ever seen. Other clothes are rarely seen worn by her a second time. Not playing with water? Wearing such a fluffy doll suit, once she falls into the pool, the doll suit quickly absorbs water and becomes extremely heavy, and she will sink to the bottom of the pool and become a dead sheep. Bai Hui's outfit matched the swimming pool. She wore a 3-point string bikini, which is more common on foreign beaches and covers very little body area. In fact, it can't be said to be very few, it can even be said to be relatively conservative, because she wears a white teddy bear hat on her head, bear claw gloves covering the entire forearm on her hands, and bear claw fur covering the entire calf on her legs. Boots. A cursory look showed that her body coverage exceeded 50 to 60%. Even though she was wearing a 3-point string bikini, a swimsuit with such a large skin coverage could still be considered conservative. Right? You will drown if you fall into the water. Lu Chang'an reminded them to pay attention to safety. Although Bai Hui is not as fluffy as Zhu Huntang, the things on her arms and legs are full of water and can also make her hands and feet wet. If it cannot be swung freely, it will sink to the bottom of the water and become a dead bear. Ah, you, why did you come in? Bai Hui blushed immediately and quickly raised his hand to block it, but even so, she still felt that she was nakedly exposed in front of him, so she quickly turned around to avoid it. She opened his eyes, but just as she turned around, she remembered that the swimsuit looked more like she was wearing nothing from the back, so she had no choice but to turn around and face Lu Chang'an. This thought cycle caused Bai Hui to start spinning. What are you doing spinning around there? Do you want to fall into the water again like a dead fish with its belly turned upside down? Lu Chang'an watched Bai Hui spinning around in circles, so sooner or later he would fall into the water. Bai Hui stopped quickly and stared at Lu Chang'an with a red face. When did she turn like a dead fish? Even when she fell into the water that time, she was very beautiful, like an elegant beauty taking a bath in the water. It was obviously him who took her in his hands and turned her over and over, destroying her beautiful state. Do you think we are not witty at all? Zhu Huntang pointed to the female lifeguard next to him who was as quiet as a wall print, saying that he paid attention to personal safety, and waved his hand to signal the female lifeguard to leave, so that Lu Chang'an would not scold her by others. I heard it, fairies don't want to lose face. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 769. Lu Chang'an looked at the back of the female lifeguard as she exited. She had a toned body, and it was obvious that she was very strong. The muscle lines on her body were not the kind of beauty that ordinary men would appreciate. She looked a bit like Chun-Li, especially with her hair tied into a bun. The head is probably meant to imitate Chun-Li. Many women who love fitness and have built strong bodies often produce some Chun-Li cos, which is quite pleasing to the eye. This is a difference in aesthetic taste. Whether something looks good or not is just a personal feeling. There is no need to wonder why someone likes it or why someone doesn't like it. Lu Chang'an watched her leave and lamented that this was the corruption of the bourgeoisie. The salary of this female lifeguard must not be low, but her job content was probably to watch Zhu Huntang while she was playing in the water to prevent Zhu Huntang from having an accident. The probability of such an accident happening is very low, so don't worry too much. Zhu Huntang doesn't play with water every day. Since the bourgeoisie cannot be eliminated, only the bourgeoisie that can create a large number of jobs and help the circulation and redistribution of wealth can be of some use. Zhu Huntang is such a beneficial bourgeois fairy sheep. Don't be nervous. Zhu Huntang saw Lu Chang'an's eyes following the back of the female lifeguard and said to Bai Hui as if he had discovered something, he seems to like that kind of muscular guy. I'm not nervous, it's not like I'm not wearing anything. I'm wearing a swimsuit next to the swimming pool. What's there to be nervous about? Bai Hui stopped spinning, and after blocking his lower abdomen with his fluffy paws, he stood with his waist steady to show that your mood is as stable as your standing posture. There is really nothing to be nervous about. After all, a lot of psychology is affected by the environment. If I were only wearing such a stroppy three-point underwear in the bedroom, and Lu Chang'an suddenly ran in, I would be nervous and punch and kick Lu Chang'an out of the room. But this is the swimming pool, a public environment, and it is normal for everyone to wear swimsuits. He seems to really like that type of girl. Bai Hui did not impolitely call another girl a muscle guy like Zhu Huntang did. She also saw Lu Chang'an's eyes following the muscle guy just now. I haven't looked back now. When Lu Chang'an heard them talking, he turned around and did not defend himself. He was a pure person who simply appreciated different beauties. He also saw the photographic equipment of Zhu Huntang and Bai Hui. It seemed that they were taking photos by the pool that alluded to the theme of animal drowning to call attention to the growing phenomenon of animal drowning. Seeing Lu Chang'an's eyes falling on her again, Bai Hui took 2 steps and naturally changed her stance, allowing her body curves to be fully displayed. What's so good about a muscular man? Of course Bai Hui is not trying to seduce Lu Chang'an, she is just a little unconvinced. Isn't a figure like hers more attractive? more mainstream, and more accepted by most people? Why should he be regarded as an aesthetic alien? The temperature here is very high. Look at how hot you are. Lu Chang'an looked at Bai Fen's red cheeks and said, Zhu Huntang is a sheep, so are you a bear? Hey, Zhu Huntang shouted quickly. I'm not, I'm. Bai Hui looked at his fluffy gloves and rubber covers. I'm little white bear. Bai Hui felt that she had caught some of the reasons why Lu Chang'an liked Zhu Huntang and often praised Zhu Huntang for being cute. Lu Chang'an called Zhu Huntang a sheep, and Zhu Huntang actually murmured baa to please Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang often provokes Lu Chang'an to death, but he is also quite willing to be shameless when it comes to catering to Lu Chang'an. Bai Hui pouted. It turned out that both Zhu Huntang and An Nuan were like this, pandering to Lu Chang'an without any bottom line. But it was difficult for Bai Hui to do this. At most, she could barely admit that she was a little white bear, not the bear he said. Little white bears are different from bears. When everyone talks about bears, they are the kind of long black bears. Little white bears are like cute little animals, Bai Hui explained. She said she was a little white bear, not just to cater to Lu Chang'an. It is completely different from Zhu Huntang, who is said to be a sheep and still says baa without any bottom line. Baa. Baa baa, Zhu Huntang screamed even more vigorously. Although she also liked to scream when she was not with Lu Chang'an, when she was with him, Zhu Huntang always felt unusually happy when she bleated. Don't know what's going on. Zhu Huntang put down the camera in his hand, walked behind Lu Chang'an and pushed Lu Chang'an with the horns on his head, trying to push him into the swimming pool and drown him. Of course Lu Chang'an remained motionless, but Zhu Huntang actually activated the electric shock switch, trying to successfully push him into the swimming pool while he was being shocked. Lu Chang'an felt the slightest electric current in his lower back and resisted the urge to throw Zhu Huntang into the swimming pool. He said to Bai Hui, have you finished filming? Zhu Huntang should go study. Zhu Huntang let go of Lu Chang'an, took a few steps back, and said with incredible anger, how can anyone study in the morning and still study in the afternoon? You will be tutoring for professional courses in the morning, and I will teach you traditional culture and literary common sense in the afternoon. Lu Chang'an said in a gentle tone, have you memorized Guanju? Today I will study the next GE10, which is about the same length and very simple. I don't want to learn. Zhu Huntang has never experienced such a cruel life. After studying in the morning, he still has to study in the afternoon? What's the difference between that and death? Zhu Huntang jumped into the swimming pool, preparing to hide in the swimming pool and not get out, hoping to avoid studying. Only when she took off did Zhu Huntang come back to her senses. She was wearing a thick sheepdoll costume. Zhu Huntang panicked in the air and turned his head to look at Lu Chang'an, yelled hey, and fell into the water. Bai Hui watched Zhu Huntang jump into the swimming pool and couldn't help but froze. Seeing that Lu Chang'an had not moved yet, he shouted nervously, lifeguard, Zhu Huntang is drowning. Lu Chang'an originally wanted the lifeguard to come to the rescue, but when he saw Zhu Huntang falling into the water, struggling and sinking, she still looked at him helplessly, as if she never doubted that she would be in danger by his side. Lu Chang'an kicked off his legs and jumped into the water. The lifeguard left the swimming pool and was still on standby in the rest area of the locker room. When he heard Bai Hui's cry for help, he took 3 steps at a time and came to the edge of the swimming pool closer to where Zhu Huntang fell into the water. He quickly jumped into the water to help Lu Chang'an save Zhu Huntang. Pushed to the shore. But after rescuing Zhu Huntang ashore, Lu Chang'an felt like he was going to be pissed to death. As a person who was very good at controlling his emotions, at this moment, he just wanted to calmly push Zhu Huntang into the water again and sink to the bottom. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Siahua. Chapter 770. There were professional lifeguards present, and Bai Hui did not help like the last time Lu Chang'an drowned. What's more, Zhu Huntang was not unconscious either. She was just a little frightened, and she did not pass out like Lu Chang'an did last time. When Zhu Huntang reached the shore, he kicked his legs, clapped his hands, his chest rose and fell a few times, he opened his mouth and said ah to judge that he was still a living little fairy, and pointed to the little fairy on his chest with a pout. Zipper. She had just encountered danger and needed a lot of comfort and rewards. Naturally, she looked so aggrieved and pitiful now. The lifeguard quickly helped her take off her hood first, while Bai Hui helped her unzip and take off the entire doll costume. This dress was really too heavy after being soaked in water, like a soaked quilt. Bai Hui had a slight realization in his heart, why Lu Chang'an always said don't you guys when he saw him playing with Zhu Huntang. He looked so smart he looked at them. It seems that it was all because of Zhu Huntang that Bai Hui was implicated. Bai Hui did not have the stupid spirit of refusing to study and jumping into the water to refuse to give up. After taking the photo, I was going to play in the swimming pool, so underneath Zhu Huntang's doll costume was just a one-piece swimsuit, which was really more conservative than Bai Hui's suit. It seems that we don't have to study in the afternoon. Zhu Huntang sat on the wet doll suit and breathed a sigh of relief. She showed such determination to resist. Presumably as long as she was not a devil, she would not let her go. When he was hurt both physically and mentally, he continued to abuse the cute little fairy. I'm really impressed by you, isn't it just to learn a piece of GE10, even as a good friend. Bai Hui couldn't understand Zhu Huntang's stubborn brain circuit. Many things always feel unacceptable at first, and I refuse to think more and try. But when I really force myself to do it, I often feel that it is not as difficult to accept as I imagined. Just like Bai Hui couldn't accept the fact that she liked Lu Chang'an, but when she really tried to face her true feelings, she didn't feel ashamed and instead plucked up the courage to confess her feelings. Of course, after confessing, this emotion was poured out, and Bai Hui felt that now she had a good attitude and could face Lu Chang'an with a normal heart, treating him as a white moonlight. No, I don't learn. Learning this behavior, to me, is like PTSD. It's the same as PTSD. Zhu Huntang's determination not to study was strengthened after diving. Taking Yan Qingqing's class every day is already very painful, but if you think about persisting until the pain is over, then studying will be the next day. Then you can barely complete your homework, but then you have to continue class in the afternoon. How can you bear this? Children are all like this. There is no difference between little fairies and children, and neither can be accepted. Miss Third, do you feel any discomfort? The lifeguard asked with concern. The life safety of the sponsor is related to the high salary and excellent benefits. When Zhu Huntang goes on vacation abroad, he will also take the lifeguard with him. It is not easy to find a second job like this. No, except when I think about the two words the Book of Songs, I have a headache, I may need to go to the infirmary to lie down all afternoon. Zhu Huntang looked around. This sentence was meant for Lu Chang'an, but he was no longer around. It was obvious that after Lu Chang'an rescued her, he left her out of sight. Where is Lu Chang'an? Zhu Huntang asked. It seems that he went to the locker room. Bai Hui didn't pay attention to Lu Chang'an all the time, but just accidentally saw it from the corner of his eye just now. You guys keep playing, I'll coax him. Zhu Huntang kicked off the sheep doll suit, feeling that the old man was very angry, and she had to make him happy, otherwise he would be doomed if he ignored her. Zhu Huntang came to the locker room area and saw that Lu Chang'an had changed out of his wet clothes and was only wearing a bath towel around his lower body. The bath towel is tied in a knot that looks very strong, which means that his waist is not strong, otherwise the knot cannot be pulled so tightly. For example, in movies and TV series, male characters wrap their lower bodies with bath towels. They are all fat and fall off easily, and those male protagonists with good figures often smile evilly and pull off their bath towels, as if they are exhibitionists. Grandpa, Zhu Huntang ran over, stopped and jumped behind him. Lu Chang'an was operating the cabinet dryer, and the clothes would be dry in a short time. He ignored Zhu Huntang and just studied the various functions on the control panel. I'll ask the men's clothing counter downstairs to bring the clothes up. Zhu Huntang picked up the phone on the wall. Need not. Are you angry? Zhu Huntang put down the phone, held his arm and jumped in front of him. Lu Chang'an showed a six-tooth smile. Zhu Huntang pouted and said aggrievedly, I really don't want to study any more today, I will study again tomorrow. I promise to memorize Guanju tomorrow. What else should I learn from you, Gotham City? GE 10. Kudzu's kudzu, tan tan's tan, well, you don't know the word tan tan either. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Lu Chang'an opened her hand and set the drying time. Then are you still angry? We'll talk about tomorrow's matter tomorrow. Zhu Huntang doesn't really care, even though the word tin tan sounds a bit anti-human at first sight, and is not made for people who are smart but don't like to learn. I'm not angry. Have you ever seen people and animals angry? Lu Chang'an shook his head. If a person is angry with an animal, he usually kills it. But people often get angry with their pets. I am your little fairy sheep. Maybe even though I am similar to a pet, you may also be angry. Zhu Huntang looked at his expression carefully. So what if I'm angry? You would rather dive than study. Who can control you? Lu Chang'an got angry thinking of her desperate leap. I promised to study tomorrow, I just forgot to wear a doll suit. It was like, just like Dongdong's mother was going to beat Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong also screamed and ran away. Zhu Huntang moved. Use emotion and reason, please forgive me this time, okay? I'm too lazy to care about you. Hearing Lu Chang'an's tone soften a little, Zhu Huntang lowered his head and pressed Lu Chang'an's chest, hugged his waist tightly with both hands, jumped in his arms, and called out, Grandpa. Why don't you call me Daddy? Lu Chang'an asked casually. Does this mean you are infatuated with your mother? Zhu Huntang let go of Lu Chang'an and looked at him with some suspicion. His mother was extremely beautiful, so it was very possible for Lu Chang'an to be moved. Zhu Huntang once thought that it would be good if Lu Chang'an could be with her mother, but now she has wisely realized that this situation must not happen. Now that Lu Chang'an and her mother occasionally hook up, they join forces to torture Zhu Huntang, who is in pain. What's more, are they really together? That must be Zhu Huntang playing mixed doubles between men and women every day, so we must be vigilant. Lu Chang'an poked Zhu Huntang in the forehead with his finger, causing her to retreat. He poked her against the wall and pushed her back before letting go. There was nothing serious in his mind, and he was just thinking about some random things. You go ahead and play. I'll go back when the clothes are dry. In a while Lu Chang'an waved his hand, motioning for her to get lost. Why don't you play with me? Zhu Huntang took his raised hand and put it on top of his head, and that little white bear, don't you want to play with it? I'll help you put her there later. Take off the ties of your swimsuit, so you don't have to peek, and you can enjoy it openly. Lu Chang'an gave her a slap on the forehead, then picked her up, walked to the edge of the swimming pool and threw her directly into the water. Dirty old man. Bad old man. Zhu Huntang emerged from the water. He was not wearing a doll suit, so of course he couldn't swim. He cursed at Lu Chang'an's back. He felt a little warm just now, but he was still a dog-faced person. In an instant just turn your back and deny anyone. She was just joking, and of course it was impossible to actually pull off the laces of Bai Hui's swimsuit and trunks, but Lu Chang'an reacted so fiercely, indicating that he must have imagined the scenario, so it stimulated him. When Bai Hui and the lifeguard saw Zhu Huntang falling into the water again, they instinctively ran to rescue her. When they saw her swimming to the shore, they realized that Zhu Huntang was now only wearing a swimsuit and swimming easily, and there was no danger. Zhu Huntang had something to talk to Bai Hui and signaled the lifeguard to go and rest. The lifeguard walked to the changing area. Because this was Zhu Huntang's private swimming pool, it was impossible to receive male guests, so the dressing area was not divided into men and women. When the lifeguard saw Lu Chang'an wearing only a bath towel, he still greeted him generously, "Mr. Lu, you have a really good figure." "Do you know me?" Lu Chang'an also looked at the lifeguard's figure. "Colleagues will gossip and listen to them talk about you," the lifeguard said with a smile. "What's your name?" Lu Chang'an asked. "You have a good figure and nice lines." "Excuse me. I just want to get stronger," the lifeguard said. "My name is Humiji." The two chatted for a while, and Humiji left. Lu Chang'an thought that she was only in her early 20s. As a sports beauty, Nuan's figure perfectly matched the aesthetics of most men. Humiji's figure was actually also very good looking. Her face looks a bit like a Korean beauty. When she says she is a Korean beauty, she is not mocking her for having gone under the knife. Girls who are willing to build a lot of muscle lines on their bodies are probably not interested in having their faces shaped like that. They are probably born with them. Lu Chang'an sat on the recliner and waited for the clothes to dry. Zhu Huntang had climbed out of the swimming pool and was lamenting angrily that the little fairy could be treated so rudely. Lu Chang'an didn't know how to show mercy at all, and only little M was suitable to be his girlfriend. "He didn't treat me as a little fairy at all. He thought I was just a sheep, so he treated me so rudely." Zhu Huntang was lying on the edge of the swimming pool with his upper body, his lower body still soaked in the water, and his legs were splashing with water. "Who made you bleed her all the time?" Bai Hui said with a hint of pleasure. "Who made you like to act cute in front of Lu Chang'an so much? When girls imitate the sounds of animals from boys, they are deliberately trying to seduce others, right?" Bai Hui quickly dispelled this guy's joy and felt a little apologetic. This emotion was a bit dark, as if she was jealous. "Baa. I like to be called that." Zhu Huntang didn't take it seriously and had no intention of repenting. "Baa. By the way, I just found out that Lu Chang'an has some thoughts about you." "What do you think of me?" Bai Hui glanced in the direction of the locker room in panic. "Don't talk nonsense. Was it because you said that to him just now that he was so angry that he threw you into the swimming pool? Have you discovered all this?" Zhu Huntang was a little surprised that Bai Hui could guess the truth. "I said let him play with the little white bear, and I could pull the laces of your swimsuit and trunks, and he got angry. Throw me into the water. Can he not be angry?" "I'm angry too." Bai Hui stared at Zhu Huntang angrily. "Then I take off your swimsuit, what do you think?" "I'm just kidding, I'm just trying it out." His strong reaction means that your sexy swimsuit today stimulated him. If he ignored the charm you exuded, how could he react so fiercely? Zhu Huntang turned around. Letting the lower body rotate to the shore, "I said before when I encouraged you to chase Lu Chang'an, he is very interested in your figure, you may not have a chance, now he has felt the charm of your figure, it is when you take advantage of the victory and pursue it. Use words to express your behavior. It seems that you also know that what you are doing is not a good thing." Bai Hui touched his face. For some reason, the skin on his cheeks was warm and his heartbeat was a little fierce. It seemed that he was really touched by Mr. Zhu. Tang was agitating as if he was ready to move. "Calm down, you must be calm. Zhu Huntang is just a person who just enjoys the excitement and doesn't take it too seriously. She is not even a dog-headed strategist. The dog-headed strategist will at least stand in the shoes of others and help think about problems and come up with ideas. Zhu Huntang just wants to make trouble, simply make trouble. Don't encouragement and encouragement mean the same thing? I just think it's used less in daily life, which makes me more educated." Zhu Huntang actually doesn't doubt her own cultural level. After all, she is already a researcher of the Book of Songs. There are also certain research results. Instigation generally refers to making people do bad things. Bai Hui found that he couldn't calm down, and he actually believed Zhu Huntang's analysis a little bit. Whatever. You are such a nagging person. Zhu Huntang spoke with a newly acquired northeastern accent. People like Lu Chang'an are destined to have 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 concubines. I have told you before. Yes, he is no ordinary person. He is not an ordinary person? Who is he? Bai Hui stared in the direction of the locker room in confusion. According to Bai Hui's understanding of Lu Chang'an in high school, Lu Chang'an was an orphan, but later it was discovered that he was Qin Yan'an's cousin and had also befriended Zhu Jun, a wealthy lady like Tang. But now even Zhu Huntang has said seriously that Lu Chang'an is not an ordinary person, which means that in Zhu Huntang's eyes, Lu Chang'an is a much more important person than other wealthy young masters at the same level as her. Bai Hui has known Zhu Huntang for a long time. Except for Lu Chang'an, Bai Hui has never found that Zhu Huntang values anyone else as much as Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang looked left and right, lowered his voice, and decided to reveal a little background to the silly little white bear. Xiong, let me tell you, he is actually Superman. Bai Hui couldn't help but pressed her breasts and laughed, because the laces of her swimsuit were a little loose due to the excessive weight. She was afraid that the laces would be loosened if she smiled. At this time, Lu Chang'an happened to walk in again, and that would be too much. Embarrassed. I'll stop there. Zhu Huntang imitated the dolphins performing shows in the ocean park and made 2 splashes when they came ashore. He climbed onto the water blanket and rolled around. After standing up, he snorted. Stupid humans always find the truth absurd. Willing to go against his own common sense. It seems that only she is a fairy different from ordinary people. She has broken through the shackles of common sense and discovered the truth about Lu Chang'an's immortality. She has tried her best to help Bai Hui. Whether Bai Hui can have a place in Lu Chang'an's harem still depends on Bai Hui's own destiny. Zhu Huntang cannot overstep her boundaries, lest Lu Chang'an turn her into a pot of mutton stew. Stop talking, let's take pictures. Bai Hui looked towards the direction of the locker room and said regretfully, please ask the lifeguard away, otherwise there will be someone else who can take some photos for us. Actually, you can ask Lu Chang'an to take photos for us. After taking the photos, it's almost time for dinner. You can go have a meal and then teach my boys how to square dance in the evening. Zhu Huntang smiled slightly. Fairies want to see through mortals. No, it's quite easy to see through this little white bear's mind. Aren't you coming together? Bai Hui showed a very unusual expression of confusion, because this was not a deliberate arrangement, but just a matter of daily details of getting along with friends. No, I won't eat tonight. Zhu Huntang waved his hand, then touched the wall and walked towards the dressing room. Lu Chang'an originally planned to leave once his clothes were dry, but Zhu Huntang got him a new photography system to play with, so Lu Chang'an stayed to play. Zhu Huntang's photography skills are very average, and her equipment is pretty good. Many top commercial photography teams have hardware configurations that are not as good as hers. However, what I gave Lu Chang'an to play with today is just a second-generation Hasselblad X1D, which has low pixels and mediocre performance. There is no full-frame model. The high-speed response and focusing capabilities are not as professional as other medium-format products. It is just a toy that is neither good nor bad. That's what makes it special. Fortunately, it is not a sports photography, and the focusing ability is just fine. Lu Chang'an is trying something new. He mainly tries Zhu Huntang's various photography lamps. Lu Chang'an has only purchased a camera and a computer now, and only has one lens. He has not played with lights yet. Realm. He doesn't have that much money to spend, and he won't pursue it deliberately. He can just use Zhu Huntang's lamp for fun. After all, if he buys a photography lamp that costs tens of thousands of yuan, the 3 people at home will definitely stare blankly. They stood in line with their eyes wide open, as if they were being tapped. Zhou Dongdong doesn't understand how expensive it is. Shang Guandandan would definitely tell Zhou Dongdong that the money could be used to eat dozens of barbecues. Zhou Dongdong understood, and he became stunned as if he was being tapped. Lu Chang'an mainly shot biphenyl, because Zhu Huntang was also filming biphenyl with her usual Leica limited edition, and she would compete with Lu Chang'an for the camera spot from time to time. Zhu Huntang has many limited editions. The set she has on hand is limited to 250 sets worldwide. However, if you order online, you can get it the next day. So some limited editions are really fake and not so popular, which is fine. No need to limit. After taking pictures of Bai Hui for a while, Bai Hui took over the camera from Zhu Huntang, and then took photos of Zhu Huntang with Lu Chang'an. After the two girls finished taking pictures, they strongly requested to take pictures of Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an was a very casual person when he was not angry, so he started to pose and even unbuttoned a few more buttons to let them take pictures of his half-exposed chest muscles. It's not that Lu Chang'an was seducing them. Photography activities were all about letting go. The photographer had to twist his body to find the right angle regardless of the image, and the model had to let go and find the right posture. Of course, it is common for photographers and subjects to take things too far and turn them into erotic activities. In short, photographers who focus on taking pictures of young girls are probably not suitable as boyfriends. There are many girls who seem to have taken photos in a separate room with the photographer, and they are not suitable as girlfriends. It's purely a family opinion and full of prejudice. After taking the photo, Lu Chang'an helped Zhu Huntang's photography assistant pack her things. She had too much equipment, and she was not interested in maintaining and taking care of it, so she naturally had to hire an assistant. Zhu Huntang and Bai Hui went to change clothes, and they took a look at the photos taken today. I have to admit that the atmosphere, composition, and artistic conception of the photos taken by Lu Chang'an are at a higher level than those we took, just like professionals and enthusiasts, Zhu Huntang commented objectively. The photos Lu Chang'an took of her didn't look like a pink and tender little fairy. They had a kind of beauty that Zhu Huntang rarely noticed in herself. I wonder if his photo retouching has progressed so fast, Bai Hui said with some worry. She could only be Lu Chang'an's teacher in the photo retouching project. The photos Lu Chang'an took today are better than those he took before. Visible progress. Maybe it was just because of the equipment, Bai Hui comforted herself, hoping that this could explain that Lu Chang'an's learning progress was not that fast. Look carefully. The photos he took for me look like a photographer taking photos of his family, in a serious way. The photos he took for you look more like a beautiful girl from a male perspective, with various parts of the body in various poses. The state also feels a bit erotic. Zhu Huntang compared it and discovered some differences. Bai Hui couldn't help but glance at Zhu Huntang's chest. You're going to die. Zhu Huntang saw the direction of Bai Hui's eyes and stretched out his fingers to insert into Bai Hui's eyes. Oh, I didn't mean to. Bai Hui wiped his eyes, but Zhu Huntang really penetrated him, and she poked the corner of his eye. Get out of here, let him eat like a bear tonight. Zhu Huntang was still angry. I hate it. Bai Hui hugged Zhu Huntang and smiled redly. She saw that in some photos, her figure was indeed exaggerated by Lu Chang'an. When Lu Chang'an walked to the elevator, he saw Bai Hui riding a small wooden horse. It seemed to be the same one that Shang Guandantan rode on last time he came to play. I think it's quite cute. Bai Hui seemed to be worried about being laughed at by Lu Chang'an, so she quickly stopped riding and walked to the elevator. Are you leaving too? Yes, Lu Chang'an nodded. You can ride for a while longer. It will exercise your waist strength. I don't need to deliberately train my waist strength. Bai Hui walked into the elevator. I often dance, which is enough to exercise my waist, and we girls usually do some combination movements to keep in shape. Good. By the way, there's a new restaurant downstairs. I remember my cousin gave me a VIP card. Do you want to check it out? Bai Hui rummaged through her bag and rummaged around for a while before she found it. Because it was not prepared in advance, it took a long time to find it. Does this restaurant have carrots, spinach, etc.? Lu Chang'an asked after watching her rummaging through the bag. Do you like carrots and spinach? Bai Hui was very confused. In his opinion, Lu Chang'an was a carnivore. When An Nuan and Lu Chang'an sat together to eat, An Nuan would always give Lu Chang'an the meat in her bowl. In the past, giving meat to your boyfriend was a sign that your girlfriend felt sorry for him, but Bai Hui believes that girls nowadays do this just because they are afraid of getting fat, and it is not a commendable character. No, if your eyes are not good, you should eat more carrots and spinach. I just saw this VIP card rolling around in your hand for several times, but you didn't see it, which means you need to patch up your eyes. Lu Chang'an expressed concern. Remind her that we are all friends and we cannot let her go blind without giving her some health advice. Yes, do you want to go get your eyes patched together? Bai Hui gritted his teeth and looked at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an shook his head. His eyes were so good, and he could zoom in, zoom out, telephoto and macro, so he didn't need them. When she walked out of the elevator, Bai Hui pulled Lu Chang'an's sleeve. Lu Chang'an didn't want to fight with her, not to mention that he was really hungry now. He took a look at the advertisement for this restaurant on the TV wall. The food seemed to be okay. So I went to have dinner with Bai Hui. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Hua. Chapter 771. When I came to the restaurant and sat down, the waiter brought me a recipe book that was almost 1 square meter open. Although Lu Chang'an is well informed, this is still the first time he has seen such a large menu in a restaurant. He can't help but suspect that the restaurant owner is an old man with traditional and conservative ideas. It was quite popular in the past to make the menu so huge. The waiter could only take out one recipe book at a time, so she went back to get a smaller recipe book and handed it to Bai Hui. Lu Chang'an felt that it was a bit silly to order from such a huge cookbook, so he put it aside and signaled to Bai Hui to just order. Bai Hui still asked Lu Chang'an for his opinion and waited for him to nod before placing the order. After all, if the dish was too unpalatable when the food was served, he would not laugh at her because he himself had nodded. In the end, Bai Fen ordered a piece of healthy black tofu. The tofu cost 7 pieces in total and was about the same size as ordinary stinky tofu, but Bai Fen was curious as to why it cost 168 yuan and wanted to try it. I also ordered stir-fried live ginseng with farm meat. The ginseng was just sliced into one strip, and the chili was in a big bowl. Finally, she ordered a Shaoyang pig's blood meatball, winter bamboo shoots and bacon with rice, and a vegetable and sweet potato leaf. There was no need to order more for 2 people. Bai Fen didn't eat much herself, but she believed Lu Chang'an had a stomach that was like some mythical beast. I saw the news about Guan Yuan among the classmates in our class. He is really in Brazil. Guan Yuan had mentioned this when he communicated with the school. What about inheriting inheritance in Brazil? He didn't pay attention to Guan Yuan deliberately, but as the squad leader, he still knew what was going on in his class. Bai Hui becoming the class monitor also fulfilled one of his wishes. After all, An Nuan was the class monitor for 3 years in high school. It felt like he was suppressed by An Nuan for 3 years, there was nothing that could be done about it. Who let the class teacher Huang Shan be An Nuan? Nuan mama's dog licking, oh, no, old classmate. What are you doing in Brazil? Are you a gangster? Lu Chang'an still has an impression of the 2016 Olympics. In many things, you only know how good you are doing after comparing them. Since 2008, the Olympic Games held by these countries have been better than each other. Garbage. Of course, for many people, it is far more difficult to admit that their own country is doing well than to realize how bad other countries are. How do you know? Bai Hui said in surprise, wondering if Lu Chang'an still had contact with Guan Yuan. After all, Lu Chang'an had buried Guan Yuan, so he might be worried that Guan Yuan would come to trouble him after he became successful in the underworld, so he occasionally paid attention to Guan Yuan. I just said it casually. Lu Chang'an wanted to laugh a little. Guan Yuan really had the experience of being the protagonist of a campus novel. Lu Chang'an is just a supporting role. He has posted some photos, all of which show him holding a gun or something. They are all very exaggerated, with the same equipment as the army. Bai Hui never thought that he had ever known such a person. For a comfortable little citizen, it feels like every time a robbery happens around me, it seems dangerous, and life is no longer safe. Then wish him the best to dominate the Brazilian underground society, Lu Chang'an said sincerely. What I'm worried about now is, will he send a killer back to kill you? Bai Hui was not as relaxed as Lu Chang'an. She said worriedly, after all, you buried him. Bai Hui knew about this. She had asked Lu Chang'an to help her resist Guan Yuan's harassment, but Lu Chang'an dug a hole and buried Guan Yuan. Have you been reading too many gangster novels or TV series recently? Lu Chang'an couldn't help but laugh. He looked at her lovely apple muscles and frowned as if he was really worried about this problem. He stretched out his hand and then retracted it. Come back. I have to change my habit of wanting to touch someone's head when I see someone being cute. I can't keep up with the indifferent behavior. Is there any difference? I have an old classmate who catches people and throws them off the bridge. If he asks him to do a favor, he buries them. My classmate from college went to Brazil to join the underworld and commit various crimes all day long. Photos. Bai Hui thought for a while. The things in the novel may be more exaggerated, but what happened to him was even more frightening. That's true. Seeing how scared you are, if you had known I would have killed him easily, Lu Chang'an said with some regret. Bai Hui pouted and tilted her head to look at him, with a cute smile on her lips. Is this what it feels like when someone wants to protect themselves? Actually, I think he might want to kill me more, Bai Hui said softly. I have seen a lot of news. Boys with violent tendencies often engage in revenge when they fail to pursue girls. If the guard Yuandu is like this, he must be extremely violent. It's a little late for you to realize this. Lu Chang'an watched the waiter serve the dishes. The first dish was healthy black tofu. It seems that this dish is the signature dish of the store and is always on hand. Bai Hui looked at him with some suspicion. Was Lu Chang'an making fun of himself? Did he want to talk about Jianning and Lu Yuan? He hinted that if he had had this awareness in high school and stayed away from Jianning and Lu, he probably wouldn't have experienced what happened later. But there is nothing Bai Fen can do. There are always some black spots in life that cannot be erased, just like some people cannot be whitened no matter what. You see, I often hit people in high school and had obvious violent tendencies. At that time, there were rumors that I had a crush on you. If you had realized this earlier, you would have come to me to beg for mercy. Lu Chang'an, your crush on me must be a lie. Right? If it is true, you must not have a crush on me. When others spread rumors, you will actively explain it clearly out of fear. Lu Chang'an took a piece of black tofu and tasted it. It tastes good, pine mushrooms and the tofu soup is especially delicious. Bai Hui listened to him and thought of those things in high school. It was like picking up a glass of boiled water. It was ordinary. After taking a sip, she had a lot of sweet aftertaste. This glass of boiled water turned out to have sugar added, just like ordinary high school. With him. She also felt a little hot. She wondered if Lu Chang'an was saying that she deliberately didn't explain when people rumored that he liked her in high school. But at that time, the whole class thought that he had a crush on her. Even An Nuan believed it, so what reason did Bai Hui have not to believe it? She's not a bug in his belly, she can overhear his thoughts. Why do you keep bringing up old scores, just like girls? Bai Hui couldn't explain anything now. Let's get down to business. I'm really afraid of Guan Yuan. He seems to have reached a very high level there. He really doesn't know how to send people. Will the killer come back to take revenge on me? Lu Chang'an controlled his smile and finished the piece of tofu slowly. Objectively speaking, Bai Hui's worries were not completely unfounded. After all, it was too arbitrary to say that something was 100% impossible to happen. It is indeed common to go off the beaten path. Girls are especially afraid of this. When many men laugh at girls, they often ignore that girls are a relatively vulnerable group after all. Men basically cannot put themselves in girls' shoes and understand the source of many fears and insecurities of girls. For example, they are more worried about the occurrence of crimes because they lack the ability to resist. They like to watch people's actions because they need to be careful about the other person's sudden violence. They are not as comfortable as men when walking alone. Pastoral feminism is hateful, but it is also true that ordinary girls are in a vulnerable position, lack a sense of security, and are always frightened by various cases of female victimization. No, Guan Yuan is not that obsessed with you. Lu Chang'an shook his head seriously. What old classmates know about him now comes from the information he actively released, otherwise how would you know about his underworld background? Doing well. What does this mean? Bai Hui somewhat understood what Lu Chang'an meant, but was not sure. He released this information, of course, to let you know that he is still doing well. Although people nowadays seem to despise the plot of showing saints in front of others when reading novels, as soon as these plots are written, there are always people with a sense of superiority who stand up and despise, but in fact, you ignored me yesterday, but you can't reach me today. It's the same mass mentality as Homecoming. He won't send a killer to deal with you, but I think one day, he will return to China and brag about his experience in the underworld in Brazil in front of his old classmates, which is an experience that ordinary people would be frightened but also enjoy. It's possible. Bigger as a man, Lu Chang'an certainly understands a man's desire to be impressed by his ex or the girl he has pursued before. Bai Hui breathed a sigh of relief and patted his chest. When he was with Lu Chang'an, even though he was often angry, he was also the most able to enlighten her and make her feel at ease. This fact makes it really easy for people to like him, as the favor of friends. At this time, the waiter served another dish of stir-fried live ginseng with farm meat. Bai Hui was about to pick up the ginseng. He put down his chopsticks and gave Lu Chang'an all the ginseng with serving chopsticks. Anyway, it was just a slice, and it was enough with just a few chopsticks. The clip is gone. Lu Chang'an cannot make assumptions based on common sense. Bai Hui naturally feels that the atmosphere is good now, but if he uses his own chopsticks to pick up food, it is entirely possible that he will hate it and refuse to eat, so it is safer to use serving chopsticks. It's better for boys to eat this ginseng, Bai Hui said with a smile. After Bai Hui finished speaking, he took a big mouthful of rice. He must have been able to tell that she was not the kind of woman who would give up her food to boys in order to lose weight. Eat a few more bites. Waiter, this lady wants a big bowl of rice. Lu Chang'an saw Bai Hui swallowing a small bowl of rice. He was surprised by her appetite and quickly and thoughtfully gave her more rice. The waiter quickly brought a large bowl of rice for men. The small bowl of rice for women here costs 10 yuan, and the large bowl of rice costs 15 yuan. After Bai Hui and the waiter looked at each other, he glared at Lu Chang'an angrily, but his mouth was full of rice and his cheeks were bulging and he couldn't speak. Lu Chang'an took out his mobile phone and took a photo of Bai Hui. She happened to have rice grains stuck to the corners of her mouth and lips, like a little white pig that was angry and full at the same time. Friends should take pictures of her at this time. Bai Hui slowly chewed the rice in her mouth and kept staring at Lu Chang'an. This man was really hateful to the extreme. She had confessed her feelings to him before, but she didn't see any more gentleness in him since then. He was still bullying others as before. Fortunately, my confession to him was just an outpouring of emotion and a release of feelings. I didn't have any expectations. I even slowly adjusted my mentality and only regarded him as a friend. As for wanting him to praise her for being cute and think she's cute, there's nothing wrong with that. Isn't it normal for a girl to want others to think she's cute? There are also some thoughts and behaviors that just continue the rivalry within Nuan in high school and have no other meaning. I didn't expect you to be a foodie. Lu Chang'an put away his phone and said with a smile. Bai Hui snorted from her nose, but her mouth was full of things, so the sound was a bit muffled. Bai Hui tilted her head, but found that Lu Chang'an's smile at this time was not so lazy or joking, but seemed to like her a little bit. Look. This kind of love, of course, is not an ambiguous love between men and women. It is simply about appreciating a certain aspect of her performance at this time. Bai Hui suddenly remembered that she and Zhu Huntang had talked about Shang Guandandan this morning. Zhu Huntang said that Shang Guandandan, Zhou Dongdong, and Zhou Dongdong's mother are both very good eaters. Lu Chang'an also likes people who can eat, so Lu Chang'an I often go out for supper with Bai Hui's cousin Zhongqing. Bai Hui has always been envious of Zongqing's physique. Zhongqing is the kind of person who can eat very well but is not easy to gain weight. Moreover, it is not caused by any underlying disease, but he just has a strong metabolism. Does Lu Chang'an feel happy when he sees others eating too much? Bai Hui's eyes moved around, unsure of this, but it seemed that it was not difficult to swallow the rice in his mouth bit by bit. After finishing the meal and paying the bill, the two people spent less than 1,000 yuan, but 3 bowls of rice cost 40 yuan. Bai Hui went to the bathroom. Lu Chang'an was waiting for her to go to the square dance training place. He watched her come out of the bathroom and asked casually, "Puked?" He heard a sound. "No. I'm not that bad. If it weren't for body control, I would show you what a big eater is at any time." Bai Hui proudly denied it, then looked back at the direction of the bathroom. Just now there is a pregnant woman in the bathroom, she must be having pregnancy reactions. It's really hard for women to be pregnant. Let's go. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 772. Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui came to the place where the dance team was training. They took the elevator downstairs and reached the top of the podium building. Most of the old men and women in the community had come, and they still had to wait for a few people. Old Man Qian was giving voice prompts. With Zhou Shuling and Zhou Dongdong have also arrived. Zhou Shuling is actually the main force. Zhou Dongdong is still hoping that everyone will perform the airplane dance with her. Shang Guandandan is sitting in a small glass room in the distance. Next to her, there is a tall rose that can block the big waves. Partial sight, so that it is not easy for others to find her and pull her for training. There is no doubt that Shang Guandandan squirmed a few times on the first day. She has no intention of continuing to practice dancing today. She is sitting there holding the lid of the thermos bottle and sipping her effervescent water. She has officially left. What a group activity looks like. The Queen Mother is the Queen Mother after all. To expect her to have the awareness of the working people and to strive for the Apple mobile phone sponsored by Zhu Huntang through personal efforts is too high for her ideological realm. The reason why she appears here is probably because the people who usually play with her are no longer in the community. Lu Chang'an walked over and sat next to Shang Guandandan. Shang Guandandan's eyes widened in surprise. It was obvious that she was hiding very secretly. When he saw Lu Chang'an's eyes that he wanted to tell her something, Shang Guandandan held the lid of the thermos pot and slowly turned his body to face him, as if he no longer exists. Lu Chang'an sat on another side. Shang Guandandan turned to the other side again. As long as she wasn't facing him, she could pretend that he didn't exist. In this way, if he loudly reprimanded the Queen Mother from the side, the force of the blow that Shang Guandandan would feel would be much reduced. What are you doing here? In fact, Lu Chang'an just came to chat with her for a few words. Children like Zhou Dongdong can be taught, but little old ladies like Shang Guandandan are completely different. It's useless to say anything to her. The strong-willed person is in the same state as Zhu Huntang who resists learning. I'm spying on the bad guys. Shang Guandandan looked around and randomly found two guys who didn't look like good guys. Lu Chang'an followed her finger and looked over, and unexpectedly saw a person who had some impression, and it seemed that he was indeed not a good person. Wu Qinglian, Lu Chang'an, and An Nuan eat snail noodles. They once met Wu Qinglian and his sister Wu Qinglian as each other's wingmen. Later, on the campus of Hunan University, Lu Chang'an also met their siblings, and Zhu Huntang was also present. Wu Qinglian was quite energetic at this time. It has been a while since I came to Juncha. Although it is only a central city with a relatively average economy, it has a better investment environment and development potential than many places in Taiwan. A stable social environment, high-level skilled workers, excellent infrastructure, and transportation channels extending in all directions are what investors are paying attention to. As Taiwan's elite, no matter what feelings they have for the mainland deep down, they all know clearly that the mainland has more wealth opportunities. Of course, they will not be like the frogs on the underworld forum who are intoxicated by the media's treatment of the mainland. All kinds of mindless slander. Not to mention being objective, neutral and true, many media in Taiwan report on the mainland. It doesn't matter if they make up fantasy stories. Some people will believe them anyway or talk about them regardless of whether they are true or false. After all, the target audience and readers are those stupid frogs. Many wealthy families in Taiwan will let their children come to the mainland to gain experience and seek development opportunities. After these people come, they will naturally understand that the mainland they see is different from what the Taiwanese media reports, but when they return, they will enlighten the people's wisdom and speed up their development. Would you please come out and see the real continent? Won't. What's more, even if someone calls out like this, how many people will believe it? The sign of stupid people is that they only believe in what they want to believe. They only like to see mainlanders living in trees if they can't afford a house, and mainlanders who are short of food and catch voles everywhere, and so on. Wu Qinglian and his sister Wu Qinglian belong to the heirs of the traveling elite class. The Wu family is also very smart. In addition to transferring part of their assets to Japan, they also have considerable investments in the mainland. If one day in the future, they can advance or retreat. Everyone with some brains knows which side the general trend is on, but are there many people with brains in this world? According to someone who has had a relationship with Wu Qinglian, more than 90% of people in the world now have no brains. Wu Qinglian hosted Fujiwara Kui from Japan at the Bailong Center today. The two of them didn't bring any entourage, so they just wandered around. I just got the results of the acoustic analysis. The howling sound in the afternoon came from the foot of Lushan Mountain and spread around Hunan University. Fujiwara Kui said to Wu Qinglian. What about energy analysis? Wu Qinglian asked with concern. It was precisely because of Zhu Huntang's bullying that Wu Qinglian left Taiwan and met Fujiwara Kui while studying abroad. Originally, it was just because of Fujiwara Kui's connection that the Wu family's investment project in Japan went smoothly, but he did not expect that Fujiwara Kui led Wu Qinglian into the door of a mysterious world. The sound is not loud, but the sound waves are dense. It seems to be a small alien beast that is good at making sounds. Generally speaking, once you encounter it, it is relatively easy to capture, but this small alien beast is often very good at hiding. How to find it is the most difficult. Fujiwara Kui frowned. I have asked people to collect all kinds of weird videos and rumors that happened around Lushan on social media. Okay, I am quite familiar with Hunan University. I will go to the Hunan University campus to investigate in person. Wu Qinglian volunteered. Although his relationship with Fujiwara Kui allowed him to have access to many secrets as a representative of the samurai family, he still needed to fight for it if he wanted to increase his level of access to information. Fujiwara Kui smiled and patted Wu Qinglian on the shoulder. Wu-kun, come on. Do you need me to help you arrange a girl for tonight? Wu Qing pointed forward. Unexpectedly, after a few casual glances, there were some girls in front of him who were as bright as eyeballs. No need, Fujiwara-kui was very confident. I am Japanese, and there are many girls here who are very fond of Japan and Japanese people. When it comes to arranging girls, Fujiwara-kui has no trust in Wu Qinglian, because Wu Qinglian once tried to recommend his sister Wu Qinglian to him. Fujiwara-kui really couldn't distort his aesthetics to accept it, so he had to hurt her a little. Take a look at Wu Qinglian's enthusiasm. Okay, Wu Qinglian was a little frustrated. Although some girls knew that he was from Taiwan and liked him very much, some of them looked at him like they were mentally retarded. Wu Qinglian wanted to make it clear that he was not a pickup. Those kids in the underworld forum, but I don't know where to start. Fujiwara-kui and Wu Qinglian walked forward to the training position of the Breadman dance team. The square dance culture in your country is very popular, and even such high-end venues allow them to occupy the venue, Fujiwara-kui said to Wu Qinglian with some admiration. This is how the mainland is. Wu Qinglian was a little uncomfortable saying the word your country to Fujiwara-kui and him, but there was nothing he could do. Even the security personnel of the mall are involved. Fujiwara-kui found that there were about 10 tall men in black standing behind the dance team, and they were also clumsily learning the dance moves. These men in black were carefully selected at first glance. Their average height was over 1.8 meters, and their bodies were strong and flexible. From Fujiwara-kui's perspective, it was natural to see that they were originally security professionals, not just fitness enthusiasts. It's a bit unbelievable, Fujiwara-kui thought for a while. There should be strong support behind this. Speaking of powerful people, Wu Qinglian couldn't help but look up at Bailong Center, which was shining brightly in the night. This was Zhu Huntang's territory. Could these people have been recruited by Zhu Huntang? Wu Qing coughed loudly and put his hands behind his back. He straightened his body and felt that he was full of confidence. He was not weak when facing Zhu Huntang. Isn't there Fujiwara-kui next to him? As a secret family, the Fujiwara family should be able to compete with the Take family. Thinking of this, Wu Qinglian couldn't help but look around. The Fujiwara family was powerful, but this was Shonan, a place where the Qin family's power and the Zhu family were colluding, so they had to be careful and keep a low profile. Madam, why do you have security personnel cooperating with your dance team? Fujiwara-kui found a topic and struck up a conversation with the beautiful young woman wearing a red sweater and short skirt next to her. The beautiful young woman in front of her exudes the graceful temperament of a traditional Chinese woman. Her soft eyebrows, soft lips, and even her elegant neck feel soft. Her body curves are fully displayed under the woolen skirt. She learned the dance moves awkwardly. Although she was not very skilled, her slender legs wrapped in bright black stockings under her skirt had already attracted the attention of many men. Next to the beautiful young woman stood a lively and cute child, but a little swollen. The beautiful girls and children are naturally Zhou Shuling and Zhou Dongdong. Are you Japanese? Zhou Shuling was about to answer, but when she heard Fujiwara-kui's tone and voice, she was a little surprised. This was not the first time she had seen Japanese people in real life, but it was still a headache for her to be talked to by Japanese people. Once. Yes, Fujiwara-kui said with a smile. The Japs are coming. Zhou Dongdong was startled and shouted quickly, "Ouch, everyone, run away." Zhou Shuling quickly grabbed Zhou Dongdong and smiled awkwardly. Zhou Dongdong failed to escape, so she had to carefully lean in front of her mother to protect her. Now the Japanese can't defeat us, they don't dare to bully us in our place, Zhou Shuling explained to Zhou Dongdong. Oh, Zhou Dongdong took out a planet cup from his pocket and started eating it, but he was still a little worried and shouted, "Lusin." Lusin immediately rushed over from the pool and stood in front of Fujiwara-kui with water all over his body. He immediately shook his head and splashed water. Fujiwara-kui and Wu Qinglian were so frightened that they backed away. What the hell is this? Upon closer inspection, It turned out to be a dog. But why is this dog just like a tiger cub? It's astonishingly big. It exudes a ferocious aura that is not comparable to ordinary beasts. It feels like if it bites it, it will lose its arms and legs, and half of its life will be lost. When Zhou Dongdong saw Lu Xin coming, he stopped shouting loudly about brother Chang'an and sister Dandan. Although Zhou Dongdong was son Wukong, he was just a child who hadn't grown up yet and didn't know how to use magic. Just staring at others, this is what brother Chang'an taught me. Don't be afraid, this dog doesn't bite. Old Qian came over and spoke like an old dog owner. He raised his hand and touched Lu Xian's head, but it might bite Japanese people. Fujiwara Kui often encountered many warm receptions, but the group of people in front of him obviously had no good impression or enthusiasm for him. Fujiwara Kui glanced at the beautiful girl who was adjusting the audio and computer equipment not far away, and felt that this beautiful girl was probably he held similar values to this group of people, so he turned around and left. Such extremely beautiful young women and girls are indeed rare to come by, but if they cause unnecessary trouble, it's not worth it. Wu-kun, let's go. Fujiwara Kui left first. Wu Qinglian breathed a sigh of relief and immediately left behind Fujiwara Kui, because he saw Zhu Huntang walking over from a short distance away. He guessed right, these square dances were indeed related to Zhu Huntang, Taiwan, the heir to the Zhu family, the most powerful family on the island, actually danced in the square with a group of old men and women. What happened to Zhu Huntang after she came to Junsha? This puzzled Wu Qinglian. Walking further away, Wu Qinglian took out his mobile phone and took a photo of Zhu Huntang blending into the square dance team. Even though it was just a back view, it was impossible to tell that it was Zhu Huntang from this photo. It didn't matter, Wu Qinglian just wanted to take the photo. After posting this photo, I sent a tweet to ridicule Zhu Huntang in the circle of wealthy people in Taiwan. Zhu Huntang probably didn't care, but that's why Wu Qinglian would ridicule her. If she really cared, Wu Qinglian wouldn't necessarily let it go. Some students didn't understand the previous chapter. Please explain. Bai Hui ate too much, so she picked her throat in the bathroom and made herself spit it out, because she not only wanted Lu Chang'an to think she could eat, but also wanted to stay in shape, because she had already been reminded that she was not like Zhongqing, who could only eat without getting fat. Constitution. In reality, some girls do this if they regret eating too much. She didn't want Lu Chang'an to know that she had vomited, but Lu Chang'an heard the sound of vomiting, so Bai Hui said that there was a pregnant woman in the bathroom. Another note, I have no knowledge of Japanese culture, nor am I interested in learning about it. Japan-related topics are pure nonsense. There is no need for some knowledgeable people to point me to relevant knowledge points. The reason why the Japanese appear is to fill in some of the pitfalls in the previous article. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 773. Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan were still in the glass house. They hid behind the rose flowers, brushing the branches and looking at the scene just now. Seeing the two men they were chatting with walking away, Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan turned to look at each other at the same time, their noses touching. In movies and TV shows, it is almost a rule that two people turn their heads and their lips touch each other, but in reality, unless one party deliberately takes advantage or both parties are intentional, the chance of such a scene happening is basically zero. My nose is soft. Shang Guandandan didn't feel embarrassed. After all, this man was just her beloved moth. She picked up the thermos, filled the lid with water and started drinking. You drink so much water a day, are you a water bird? Because Shang Guandandan was suspected of being a little firebird, Lu Chang'an used the analogy of a water bird. He originally wanted to say that she was a water dragon, but only when he sprayed liquid, Only water dragon can be used to describe him. Liquids: drinking water, tea, orange juice, saliva, urine, blood. Because I couldn't drink effervescent water for a long time when I went to bed at night, so I drink more now, Shangguandandan explained, lest he misunderstand that she could store water like a camel. She was just innocent. I just like to drink. I also like to eat camels. Are those two Japs that Zhou Dongdong was afraid of just now? When are we going to kill them? Shangguandandan diverted his attention so that he would not keep talking about the Queen Mother's elegant hobbies and elegant behavior. Shangguandandan frowned. She was already an ordinary person, so when killing people, she had to do it herself. She couldn't just open her mouth and grant the other person death like before. This was also a helpless matter, and Lu Chang'an had no intention of rebuilding the empire with her. Do you think I am a tyrant who kills people at will? Lu Chang'an exudes a kind and approachable temperament most of the time. He doesn't understand why Shangguandandan suddenly wants to kill others. Sure enough, it is just a thought left in the feudal empire. Backward elements. Lu Chang'an tried to reform her with socialist core values, but it had no effect. Although the community had slogans about prosperity, democracy, civilization, harmony, freedom, equality, justice, rule of law, patriotism, dedication, integrity, and friendliness, she went to play cards every day. Can be seen at any time. We are ordinary people. We cannot kill people we don't like just when we see them. Lu Chang'an persuaded her in a gentle tone to prevent her from making any decisions on her own. You have to go to a place where no one can see you before you do it. Such a reminder is necessary. Otherwise, if the two of them are unlucky and meet Shangguandandan holding a dog or Zhou Dongdong in the market one day, she will suddenly be grabbed by her hair and hanged. Shangguandandan nodded and agreed to his advice, half expecting to meet the Japanese where no one could see him. I just heard them say some strange things. Shangguandandan was a little curious about the topic between Fujiwara Jijing and Wu Qinglian just now. Did you hear it? Lu Chang'an didn't pay attention. He just saw the family crest on Fujiwara Kuei's custom-made suit. Do you think I'm like you? I prick up my ears and listen to what's going on upstairs every day. If the kitchen is still busy and there are housework, if you want to do it, you won't come out. If the food is laid out, you will show up at the table on time. Of course Lu Chang'an's hearing was different from ordinary people, but it was impossible for him to keep his ears in a highly sensitive state at all times. That would be pure abuse to himself. Shangguandandan didn't hear what Lu Chang'an said, so he didn't need to respond to his words. He continued, what are they talking about? The howling, the strange beast is still a monster, maybe a monster. I am in the novel. I saw everyone here saying that there are more monsters. They said that there was a little monster howling around your school this morning. Lu Chang'an frowned. Little monster? Howling. Could it be referring to Lu who competed with Wu Tong and Feng? If you dare to say that he is howling, then if you have the chance, just scream in their ears a few times to let them hear clearly what kind of sound it is. They also said they wanted to capture this little monster. The man with the sharp mouth and monkey cheeks volunteered to go to your school to investigate. After Shangguandandan finished speaking, he handed the thermos lid to Lu Chang'an's mouth. If he didn't drink, Shangguandandan would do it on his own. Drink a cup to cover. Lu Chang'an folded his hands in front of his chest. He had some impression of the family crest on the Japanese suit. It was a family with a long history. Many big families in Japan have not broken up the inheritance. Some of them were even classed during World War II. The war criminals were protected by the ugly state after the war and even grew stronger. In recent decades, Lu Chang'an has stayed in this land most of the time except for some business and private matters. He has no understanding of the many mysterious forces emerging in the world. For example, the Nikola Tesla organization has ceased to exist, the forces related to Avrona, and now the Japanese family has come out to capture monsters. When I have contact with the Antarctic authorities one day, I would like to ask them by the way. Lu Chang'an is not very concerned and has no immediate plans to collect information and make a response. Lu Chang'an stood up and was about to walk out. Shang Guandandan grabbed his finger and followed him with a thermos bottle in his other hand. As a sponsor, Zhu Huntang named the community dance team the Breadman Dance Team. This name is a bit trendy for old men and women, but in fact, these old people are not as conservative in playing as many people think, and they can accept it. What's more, the sponsorship and rewards given by Zhu Huntang are so generous. Zhu Huntang is so cute, and the elderly are less resistant to cute girls, so it has nothing to do with her mischief. Bai Hui adjusted the equipment and stood beside Zhu Huntang hand in hand. He saw Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan walking over. He immediately noticed that Shang Guandandan had grabbed Lu Chang'an's finger. After staring at it for a few times, he saw Shang Guandandan. Dandan was also looking at him, and Bai Hui smiled quickly. Dan, why did you dance for a while and then leave yesterday? Zhu Huntang said to Shang Guandandan. I'm tired. Then let me give you the prize first. Zhu Huntang snapped his fingers, and Jin Xiaomei came over with a mobile phone box and handed it to Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang gave Shang Guandandan the new mobile phone that was just released last year. Although it was a prize only given to the dance team when they won the first prize, could Shang Guandandan be treated the same? Xiao Tang is so good. Shang Guandandan raised his hand without answering. Zhu Huntang helped Shang Guandandan hold the mobile phone box, then bent down and tilted his head so that Shang Guandandan could touch his head. After Shang Guandandan finished touching his head, he stretched out his palm, and Zhu Huntang took Shang Guandandan's hand and prepared to play. Anyway, Shang Guandandan was very tired and didn't want to participate in training today. Bai Hui stared at the scene dumbfounded. This morning Zhu Huntang was still there giving Bai Hui advice, saying that as long as he pleases Shang Guandandan, he can do whatever he wants with Lu Chang'an. At that time, Bai Hui thought Zhu Huntang's idea was too nonsense, but he didn't expect that Zhu Huntang did this. Look at Zhu Huntang's flattering smile. Look how happy she looks when she takes the initiative to let people touch her head. Look at her comfortable expression with her eyes squinted. Maybe this is flattery. Bai Hui felt that she might have been deceived by Zhu Huntang's appearance. Why could all the girls he knew be able to do this? Bai Hui stayed in place in a daze, feeling like his mind was being shocked into a ball of mush. Why did Zhu Huntang please that little girl so much? Bai Hui absolutely does not believe that Zhu Huntang needs to be like this because of any interests. No one can make Zhu Huntang like this because of power and wealth, right? That's really what Zhu Huntang said. She did this to fill Shang Guandandan. She wanted to occupy a position among Lu Chang'an's 72 concubines in the 3 palaces and 6th courtyard. What are you thinking about? It's like Zhou Dongdong saw the ice cream fall on the ground, Lu Chang'an asked. No. Bai Hui came back to her senses and saw Zhu Huntang holding Shang Guandandan's hand to find Zhou Dongdong, and then turned to look at Lu Chang'an. That little one named Shang Guandandan, the girl, seems to be very imposing. Of course, if you become the queen at the age of 6 and the empress dowager at the age of 15, your momentum will not be weak, but to be as strong as her, you probably need to have a strong background, such as the regent's grandfather and grandfather, Lu Chang'an explained for a moment. If you listen to what she said about me, you can do so much. Bai Hui laughed and jumped on tiptoes. You can watch me dance later. Don't leave. Do you think that if you tell me not to leave, I will have a rebellious mentality and have to leave? Lu Chang'an saw through Bai Hui calmly. I won't. I'm teasing you, Bai Hui said coquettishly. Her eyes couldn't help but have some sweetness, and her cheeks felt warm as her heart beat, and she quickly turned around. I'm going to get ready. Lu Chang'an nodded and went to find Zhou Dongdong, planning to buy 2 ice cream sticks to eat. Although she would not deliberately drop the ice cream for Zhou Dongdong on the ground, it would still be quite interesting if she accidentally dropped it. All kinds of requests, and another, don't doubt that my rice noodle shop is not doing well all day long. The GDP growth rate from April to June was 3.2%. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Siahua. Chapter 774. The place for dancing is on the roof of the podium of Bailong Center, surrounded by the hotel's VIP reception center, luxury brand, and supercar display centers, but there is no refrigerator with a thick quilt on top, such as in the community. The kind found in Auntie Sia's canteen. Zhu Huntang's baker team brought several boxes of mineral water to prepare, but they were not considerate enough to even prepare ice cream. When Lu Chang'an passed by Zhou Dongdong, he said to himself, "I'm going to buy ice cream." Zhou Dongdong followed Lu Chang'an as if he was hypnotized, and the two of them left together. I took the van elevator to the third floor below. When I stepped out of the elevator, I saw what Zhou Dongdong once described as a ski resort that looked like a giant ice cream. It was under maintenance today, so there were no customers. Plus, I had to buy ice cream to eat, so I didn't describe it. A ski resort is filled with flies. Lu Chang'an bought 2 sticks of green tongue ice cream, and Zhou Dongdong bought La Juncha stinky tofu ice cream, which looked like 3 pieces of stinky tofu on a stick. After looking at her choices, Lu Chang'an felt that Zhou Dongdong's words and deeds always fit her temperament so well. Lu Chang'an also planned to go to the bookstore nearby. For children like Zhou Dongdong, this place was as uncomfortable as walking into the hospital for adults, but she still followed him. Lu Chang'an did not go into the bookstore directly. He was going to sit outside the bookstore with Zhou Dongdong and finish the ice cream first. It is one thing to not study well, but we must respect knowledge and books. Ouch. I'll show you one. Zhou Dongdong looked at it curiously. Green tongue ice cream, as the name suggests, looks like a tongue, and it's not hard, it's as soft as a real tongue, and the front end can still dangle. Lu Chang'an put the green tongue ice cream in his mouth, pulled out the stick, then turned the ice cream around in his mouth, then spit out the soft end of the green tongue, and kept the tail end in his mouth. It looked like he spit it out. An extra long green tongue. Lu Chang'an bit his green tongue and used his teeth and lips to drive the tongue up and down at high speed. Giggle. Zhou Dongdong shook his head and laughed, "I want to play too." Lu Chang'an gave the remaining stick of green tongue ice cream to Zhou Dongdong. After she successfully imitated it with great effort, the two of them took a group photo and video while biting one stick, and then sent it to Zhou Shuling. After taking the photo, Lu Chang'an was biting the ice cream and was about to put the stick back in and continue eating when he saw Zhongqing standing at the door of the bookstore, looking at him with a strange look. "Good evening." Lu Chang'an nodded and greeted Zhongqing calmly. Zhongqing raised her hand and touched her lower lip with the back of her hand. Such a small gesture could not hide her emotions, so she had to turn her hand to cover her mouth and press her fingers on her cheek to control her facial expression. "What are you doing?" It was no use. Zhongqing couldn't help but laugh out loud while pressing his belly. He bent down and squatted down before standing up. "Eat ice cream." "Sister Zhong, do you want to eat it?" Zhou Dongdong hesitated for a moment, then raised both the green tongue and the stinky tofu ice cream. "Which one do you want to eat? They are both delicious." "No need." Zhongqing waved his hand. "Sister, my stomach will hurt if I eat ice cream in winter." "It's spring now, you can eat ice cream," Zhou Dongdong said quickly. "You can eat it." Zhongqing smiled and touched Zhou Dongdong's head. She liked this child very much. Unlike other children who took their favorite food and never thought about giving it to others. Baifen was fleshy when he was little, a bit like Zhou Dongdong, but when he grew up, it was completely full and not as edible. Zhongqing said to Lu Chang'an. "Oh." Lu Chang'an bit his ice cream and looked at Zongqing's figure. He must have been full of flesh when he was a child, and it was completely opened when he grew up. No, Zhongqing was not as lucky as Baifen when he was a child. It was quite miserable. I guess the meat won't work. When Zhou Dongdong and Zhou Shuling came to rent his house, he seemed to be a little malnourished and his growth was slower than other children. Let's go now. You can continue to eat. Zhongqing felt that his current work was a bit difficult, especially since he lacked professional knowledge in certain fields. He picked some books here to recharge his batteries. If you don't understand anything, you can ask me. I've been trying to be a teacher lately. Lu Chang'an pointed to the book Zhongqing bought. That's great. Zhongqing didn't have any urgent learning problems that needed to be solved, but he just felt that the scene of Lu Chang'an being his teacher was quite exciting. This feeling reminded Zhongqing of Zhu Huntang. Maybe she was a fairy. Zhu Huntang deliberately resisted the treatment that others longed for. How great it is to study with an excellent teacher. After Zhongqing left, Lu Chang'an and Zhou Dongdong finished their ice cream and went to the grooming area of the bookstore to wash their hands before walking in. In order to keep the pages of books that are often read by customers as clean and tidy as possible, such hand-washing equipment is necessary. Zhou Dongdong's little paws were washed clean after being stained with a lot of ice cream. Zhou Dongdong can still flip through books. Those books that are all pictures will be flipped through even if they are completely incomprehensible. If the books are all words, even if they are words that children know, Zhou Dongdong will not be interested at all. Lu Chang'an wanted to find a book about myths and monsters, which recorded a large number of descriptions and stories of ancient strange beasts. Many strange beasts really existed, but no one believed them even when they were recorded. There are birds in Kunlun, colorful in color, and they talk to people. There is a giant cat at the foot of the mountain. The firstborn is king, and its body is as big as an ox. It is the king of beasts. With such descriptions of parrots and tigers, after parrots and tigers become extinct, thousands of years later when humans see this record, they will probably wonder how there are birds that can speak human language. A cat as big as a cow? Is there a word engraved on the forehead? What a weird thing. Lu Chang'an's memory of the ancient mythological era is buried deep in his heart. It needs some pictures, some sounds, some physical objects, or some time to activate it. Just like when people reach middle age and old age, it is often difficult to remember clearly every detail of their childhood. A piece of cloth in their childhood. The appearance of a tiger, an iron ring, and a wooden gun makes those childhood scenes emerge clearly with complex emotions, making people unable to help but have a layer of mist in front of their eyes. Zhou Dongdong found a picture book called The Classic of Mountains and Seas and started reading it. Zhou Dongdong had never eaten these strange animals. Lu Chang'an casually picked up another encyclopedia of monsters and started flipping through it, only to find that the Japanese man who had accosted Zhou Shuling was also standing next to him, holding another catalogue of ancient myths and monsters and flipping through it. Look. Feeling the gaze beside him, Fujiwara Kuai turned his head and saw Lu Chang'an, and then out of the corner of his eye he saw Zhou Dongdong sitting on the ground flipping a book. Fujiwara Kuai was deeply impressed by this swollen child, not to mention that when he was washing his hands at the door, he saw with his own eyes the child and the adult next to him each biting a soft ice cream and attacking the other's ice cream. Fujiwara Kuai felt a little regretful. There was no doubt that this child's cute face was inherited from her beautiful mother, and her intelligence was probably inherited from the man next to her. A father should be a role model for his children, and he must consider the impact of his words and deeds on his children's lives. Fujiwara Kuai knows that his excellence today is inseparable from his father's guidance and example since childhood. But this was just his inner thought. Fujiwara Kuai didn't say anything. He felt the other person's gaze and looked back politely, showing a peaceful smile. Are you interested in mythical monsters? This was the Japanese who wanted to catch the little monster. Lu Chang'an didn't intend to pursue it deliberately, but he asked when he met him. Yeah, the truth disappeared in the myths, the strange beasts that really existed hidden in the legends of monsters are very interesting, aren't they? Fujiwara Kuai replied casually. A strange beast that really existed, Lu Chang'an also laughed, it's all made up. For example, dragon. Although the person next to him didn't seem very smart at first, but when he actually came into contact with him, he exuded an aura that was hard to dislike. It was completely different from the first impression. Fujiwara-kui was still willing to chat. A few words. Dragon is real, Lu Chang'an tilted his head, not believing it at all. The 12 zodiac signs of your country. Are you a foreigner? Yes, I am Japanese, and I am very interested in your country's traditional mythology and culture. Fujiwara-kui continued, 11 of the 12 zodiac animals are real, and the remaining dragons, is this just making it up? Why would there be one non-existent creature among the 11 real creatures? This doesn't make sense. Indeed, there are some real animals, such as cats, which are completely qualified to be included. Even cats are not included, but a fictional creature is included. It doesn't make sense. Lu Chang'an nodded as if he was inspired. The corner of Fujiwara-kui's mouth curled up slightly. This man's thinking reaction was actually very normal, and he was able to deduce and perform logical analysis very quickly. Many times, myths are oral history, some are exaggerated, and some era barriers make it difficult for modern people to understand. In fact, as long as these myths and legends are combined, we can peel off the cocoons and find many truths. Fujiwara-kui he opened the catalogue of ancient myths and monsters in his hand and pointed to a picture of a dragon inside. Lu Chang'an looked at the dragon. The dragon definitely existed, but it died during the period when Nuwa was patching up the sky. The dragon in the Chinese zodiac commemorates its death, Fujiwara-kui said with some regret. You just died. It was really unlucky, Lu Chang'an sighed. Fujiwara-kui smiled. He wanted to get to know this man. After all, after getting to know him, he had the opportunity to contact his family. Fujiwara-kui will stay in Junsha for a long time. While effecting your own tasks, getting to know that beautiful young woman in a red dress will leave you with beautiful memories. During the Kamakura period, there was a distinguished guest from China who asked the head of the family to present his most beautiful wife. In a long history, it was an honor that the Fujiwara family talked about, but now this period of history is hard to talk about. On the contrary, it is a shameful existence. Fujiwara-kui, who knows this history, often thinks, now it should be the turn of the men here to offer their beautiful wives, right?